Sarah, I'm filing a formal complaint right now. It's Passover, and I'm convinced somebody in this neighborhood tricked me into eating leavened bread. Look, I'm from Rome. Well, my great-grandfather was. And if it isn't spaghetti or something I can twirl on a fork, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Why is this house always filled with things I can't eat?
Oh, stop it, Michael. You're just acting like a rich, entitled white lawyer in the Connecticut suburbs again. It's just breakfast. Can't you just be a normal human being for once? Be a husband to your wife and a father to your children, Bluefus and Clunt. Even if you did make those names up in a total panic.
I'm trying, Sarah, but it's hard to be a family man when I have a blue Subaru ACX 475 living rent-free in my head. That car stole my spot in a Target parking lot on Black Friday 3 years ago, and I've carried a heavy D battery in my pocket every single day since. Every single day. This battery is my destiny. It's either gonna break a windshield, some teeth, or my own spirit.
You are literally insane. You're the same guy who watched Ace Ventura 50 times in a row and laughed so hard you actually crapped yourself in the theater. People were moving 3 rows away from us, Michael. And now you're obsessed with a parking spot from 2023? I can't do this today. I'm leaving to go see Sully Sullenberger at the airport bookstore.
Wait, Sully's alive and he's doing a signing? Don't go yet. I'm already 2.5 hours late for preschool. Don't ask why, it's a long story involving a chicken and a lost shoe. But before you leave, I need you to bring me 7 eggs. Not 6, not 8, 7. I saw it at a prison movie once. The guy ate 7 eggs and won over the entire cell block. It was majestic, Sarah. I need that kind of respect in this kitchen.
I am so done. Your arguments are always so shallow and pedantic. It's like talking to a wall that only watches cable news and cartoon reruns. I'm going to find my old self, the one that's been buried by your nonsense and our lack of a functional savings account. Maybe Sully will let me smell his hat. I heard he never sweats, not even when he's landing in the Hudson.
Fine, go. Leave me here with the kids. I'll just stay here and listen to Smash Mouth on repeat because we're Nazis, Sarah, and apparently we like 90s pop rock. But don't you dare think I didn't smell that Charleston chew on your breath at the service this morning. You're a sugar trader, Sarah, a sugar trader.
Just feed the dog, Michael, and stay away from the neighbor's yard. Last time you tried to bond with them, you offered to pay for their driver's side airbags. Just be normal.
Normal in this economy? I'd rather go back to the 80s and do some of that might as well be legal cocaine. Cocaine, the real winner of the war on drugs. Now, where did I put those 7 eggs?
Sarah, I hate shopping. Why are we here? Every time I walk into this place, I feel like I'm in a Fox promo where I'm about to meet myself. Look at this list. Dozen eggs, orange juice, bread, and 1 Sara Lee cheesecake that I will definitely take tiny finger pinches of all the way home and then throw in the outside trash so you don't find out.
Michael, just focus. We need groceries, not a monologue about your secret cheesecake habits. And please, put that D battery away. You can't just hunt for blue Subarus in the Target parking lot while we're buying milk.
It's about justice, Sarah. Hate is the most important emotion in life next to love. When you have someone to hate, you have something to live for. Like that guy who gentrified his city and named his daughter Boise. Who does that? I'm gonna name my kid Jacksonville just to prove a point.
You're already 2.5 hours late for whatever it is you do, and now you're talking about renaming our children. Look, all these coupons are expired. Did you even study for groceries?
I studied, but then I got distracted thinking about whether Forrest Gump was better than Pulp Fiction. I mean, Forrest does what he's told and makes millions, but the girl tries to be different and ends up in a tragic 90s montage. It's a shallow and pedantic world we live in, Sarah.
I'm just trying to have a good Christmas or Sunday or whatever day your brain thinks it is. Can we just get the eggs? You said you needed 7 to win over the prisoners in the checkout line.
Exactly. I don't want people just coming in whenever. And look at that cashier. He looks like he's about to give everyone diarrhea like Oprah on a bad day. You get diarrhea and you get diarrhea?
Michael, stop shouting. People are staring. You're acting like you're doing a bit on SNL that's way too long with no ending. Just pay the bill or we're gonna get funked up by the security guards.
Let them come. I'm rich in spirit, Sarah, even if I only paid for driver's side airbags in this economy. If anyone calls, tell them I'm in the 70s doing the might-as-well-be legal cocaine. It's the only way to survive a trip to the mall.
I'm going to the car. If you're not there in 5 minutes, I'm moving to Burlington.
Wait, do we need Tums? I'll go on a Tums run if you need me to. Don't be so passive-aggressive. Sarah, we're back, finally, out of that grocery store hellscape. But wait, what is that noise? Is that a brass section I hear coming from our living room? It sounds like a big band record is having a stroke in there.
Oh no, Michael, please tell me you didn't leave the doggy gate open again. Look, it's Joe. He's sitting in your recliner surrounded by all his big band records, and he looks like he's moved in for good.
Joe, what the hell, man? This is my house. I'm lying here asking you, I'm standing here asking you to kick yourself out. You can't just move in because your wife's oncologist appointment went poorly. I have my own problems, like trying to figure out why TV themes were longer back in the day.
Michael, be nice. Joe was your father's best friend for 20 years. You can't just throw him out into the hot yard. Besides, he says he's happy and in love with his new lifestyle.
I don't care if he's in love. He's playing that music so loud I can't hear my own internal monologue about how Forrest Gump is a ridiculous movie. Joe, take your thesaurus and get out. I need this room to practice eating my 7 eggs in total silence.
Just look at him, Michael. He looks so comfortable. He even brought his own beer and a collection of Elton John's greatest hits. You know, the guy with the worse haircut than Pete Ruse. Maybe we should just join him and pretend we're Nazis who like Smash Mouth again.
Never. I'm a man of principle, Sarah. I've carried this D battery in my pocket for 3 years and I'm not afraid to use it on a record player. Joe, if you don't leave, I'm going to start a megachurch right here in the kitchen and charge you admission.
Michael, you're acting like a serial killer in a 90s thriller. Why can't you just be a normal human being and enjoy the music? It's better than listening to you complain about leavened bread all afternoon.
Fine. If Joe stays, I'm going to the backyard to chuck rocks and eat sandwiches out of foil. That's the real me, Sarah. My tummy's riding a horse. Giddy up. But don't expect me to be happy when I find out the dog is allergic to Frankie's food again.
Just go, Michael. I'll be here wondering if I should have married that Australian guy with the catamaran instead. At least the boat wouldn't argue about the Bible.
Woohoo! Sarah, give me the car keys. The time for talk is over. I just saw a blue Subaru 8CXX475 drive past our house, and I swear on everything that is holy, it's the same one from the Target parking lot. I've carried this D battery in my pocket every day for 3 years for this exact moment. This is either going to break a windshield, teeth, or my own sanity.
Michael, put the battery down. You are obsessed. You can't go on a high-speed chase through the Connecticut suburbs just because of a parking spot from 3 years ago. Besides, we're 2.5 hours late for preschool, and you still haven't fed the dog.
Forget the dog. He's okay. I just want a new one anyway. One that doesn't smell like Sully Sullenberger's hat. That Subaru driver is a serial killer of dreams, Sarah. He drop-kicked my dignity like a nuclear bomb. And now I'm going to show him what happens when a man has nothing left to live for but pure, unadulterated hate.
You are acting like an SNL bit that's gone on way too long with no ending. What are you going to do? Chuck rocks at him and eat a sandwich out of foil while you wait for the police? You're not a fighter, Michael. You're a guy who crapped himself watching Ace Ventura.
That was a different Michael. This Michael is fueled by 7 eggs and a desire for suburban justice. I'm like a rich white lawyer who's finally snapped. If I don't catch that Subaru, I'm gonna disappear like a serial killer in a 90s thriller. It's a shallow and pedantic world, Sarah, and I'm the only one with a heavy-duty battery to fix it.
Fine, go. But if you end up in the Hooskow or the Gray Bar Saloon, don't call me to make bail. I'll be busy watching Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson use the John or something more productive than your nonsense.
Joke's on you, Sarah. I already gave Levi a verbal warning, and now it's my turn to ride the Michael go-around. Giddy up. Justice is coming, and it's driving a minivan with a driver's side airbag. Sarah, pull over. Look, there it is, sitting in the driveway of that gentrified house, the blue Subaru 8CXX475. My moment of suburban vengeance has finally arrived. I'm gonna walk up there and show them exactly what a D battery can do to a windshield.
Michael, wait! This is a TikTok house. Look at all the lights and cameras in the window. You're gonna end up on the internet and everyone's gonna think you're just some crazy old man who's been buried by his own lack of money.
I don't care about the internet. They probably think Smash Mouth is cool anyway. Hey, you in the Subaru, you stole my spot at Target 3 years ago on Black Friday. I've carried this battery every day since, and now you're gonna pay.
Oh God, Michael, stop. The person getting out of the car is a little old lady holding a Sara Lee cheesecake. She doesn't even know what a Target parking lot is. You're making a scene like an SNL bit that's too long with no ending.
I don't care if she's a grandmother. It's the principal, Sarah. She probably gentrified this whole city with her Boise and Jacksonville energy. Hey, lady, do you want to smell silly sweat? Because you're about to sweat when you see what I do to your tires.
Michael, get back in the car. You're acting like a serial killer in a 90s thriller. People are recording you. You're going to be canceled, and not the cool kind of canceled where you get a Netflix special, but the kind where we have to move to Burlington.
Wait, is that a Starbucks cup on her dashboard, just like in Game of Thrones? This whole thing is a simulation, Sarah, a shallow and pedantic simulation. I'm not throwing the battery. I'm going to go start a megachurch and sue everyone instead.
Finally, let's just go home and feed the dog. He's been eating Frankie's food and you know he's allergic.
Fine, but I'm keeping the battery. It's my only friend in this Connecticut suburb. Now, let's go see if we can find some might-as-well-be legal cocaine from the 70s. Sarah, I've had an epiphany. Vengeance on elderly Subaru drivers is small-minded. I'm going to do what every straight American man does when he's confused. I'm going to start a mega-church. It's the perfect plan. I'll be the leader, and you can be the cocktail waitress hovering over people's shoulders while pouring wine.
A mega church? Michael, you don't even know what your favorite book of the Bible is. Last time someone asked, you just said the Old Testament and pronounced it like a total amateur. You're gonna get kicked in the schnutz by the first congregation that actually reads.
That's not how religion works, Sarah. It's all about the deal. I'll tell people that if they don't pay up, we'll funk them up. It's religion's whole deal, being violent to others in the name of Jesus Christ. Plus, I've got a new approach. We're gonna beat the crap out of the mean kids, and I'm gonna help do it.
This is just another one of your bits, like the Stewie go-around. It's too long with no ending. You just want people to send you their digits so you can shoot them a text about their melanoma treatment advancements. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael.
It's not a bit. I'm rich, Sarah. I'll name the church after a recently gentrified city, Church of Boise. We'll have a driver's side airbag for every pew, and we'll only play Smash Mouth because we're Nazis and that's what we like.
You are insane. You're gonna get sued by your own dad. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson in the loo and ask her for a way out of this marriage.
Go ahead, but when I'm on the New York Times bestseller list because I bought 1,500 copies of my own book, you'll be sorry. I'll be hanging out with Reese Witherspoon's manager while you're stuck here wondering if the dog is still allergic to Frankie's food.
Just make sure you don't use that D battery as a collection plate.
That's actually a great idea. The D battery of faith. I love our life, Sarah. It's hard not to root for a rich white lawyer in the Connecticut suburbs. Woohoo!
Sarah, welcome to the first official service of the Church of Jacksonville. Don't mind the decor, I've replaced the traditional cross with a giant replica of a D battery. It's a symbol of suburban justice. I'm finally meeting my destiny. And look who's here to join the flock, it's Joe. He's home early, probably because he realized his big band records are a sin against humanity.
Michael, you can't be serious. You're wearing a pilot's hat that looks suspiciously like the one Sully Sullenberger wore when he landed in the Hudson. And why is there a cocktail waitress named Jenna hovering over Joe's shoulder while pouring wine? This isn't a church, it's a gentrified dive bar.
It's called outreach, Sarah. We're taking a new approach. I told Joe that if he joins, I'll help him beat the crap out of those mean kids who bully people about having the cheapest Tesla. Besides, Michael and I make a better team here at home than we ever did chucking rocks and eating sandwiches out of foil.
Sigh. Joe, I am so sorry. Michael thinks he's an early adopter of a new religion, but he's really just a guy who's been buried by his own nonsense. Michael, you don't even know what you're doing. You told Joe that your favorite book is the Old Testament, and you didn't even say it right.
Details, Sarah. Religion's whole deal is being violent to someone else in the name of a higher power. I told Joe if he doesn't pay his tithes, we'll funk him up. It's a collection of songs and threats, much like Elton John's greatest hits, songs by the one gay guy with a worse haircut than Pete Rose.
This is going to end in a lawsuit. I can feel it. I'm gonna go check the freezer for that veggie burger. If I'm lucky, I'll find a way to disappear like a serial killer in a 90s thriller before the police get here.
No one is going to the Hooskow today, Sarah. We have a deal with the brewery. We're going to harvest the losses on our cap gains and defer all bonuses to the next fiscal quarter. Now, Joe, eyes and ears, please. Let's begin the sermon with a reading from the Lands and Lady Pants catalog. Sarah, don't panic, but there's a man at the door in a suit who looks like he hasn't laughed since the 80s. He says he's here to audit the Church of Jacksonville. I told him we're all of the same team, but then he asked why I have a statue of a D battery in the living room. I guess he only paid for driver's side airbags because he has no sense of humor.
I told you, Michael, you can't just start a megachurch to avoid paying for a Discover card. This is either going to break a windshield or our entire bank account. What did you tell him about our beneficiary designations?
I told him our story does not end here. I said we're harvesting the losses on our cap gains and deferring all bonuses to the following fiscal quarter. It's a no-brainer, Sarah. But then he started asking about Bluefus and Clunt, and I panicked and told him they were my children's real names that don't sound like I made them up in a panic.
Michael, you are insane. You're going to get sent to the Hooskow, the Big House, or the Gray Bar Saloon. Did you really try to prove we have a large family by telling him that Bluefus's face was irreplaceable after he saw a picture?
Look, I do mundane things, okay? I told him if he tries to sue us, my dad will just have to sue him back. I mean, look at us. We came here in a dog's car. How much blood can he get from a Suburban stone?
This is worse than the time you guarded Jeffrey Epstein. Why can't you just be a normal husband for once and not a milkaholic with a mess in the kitchen? The legal fees alone are going to funk us up.
Don't worry, Sarah. I told the auditor that if he drops the charges, I'll shoot him my digits and we can go out to dinner on Friday. I love this case. It's just like that prison movie where the guy eats 7 eggs. It's all about winning over the authorities.
I'm gonna go check on the dog. I hope he hasn't disappeared like a serial killer in a 90s thriller.
He's fine. He's just in the backyard with Joe, wondering if there's something they'd like to discuss. Now, where is my thesaurus? I need it to sound more pedantic for the judge. Your Honor, I find these charges shallow and pedantic. I am a simple man from the Connecticut suburbs who just wanted to start a megachurch and perhaps smell Sully Sullenberger's sweat. Is it a crime to carry a D battery in your pocket for 3 years because a blue Subaru stole your parking spot at Target? I say no. That's just having something to live for.
Michael, sit down. You're not a lawyer. You're a milkaholic who's 2.5 hours late for preschool. Your Honor, please excuse him. He thinks he's in a prison movie where he can win everyone over by eating 7 eggs.
Silence, Sarah. I'm in the middle of a legal masterclass. Look at the prosecutor, Your Honor. He looks like the kind of guy who would trick someone into eating leavened bread during Passover. I bet he doesn't even like Smash Mouth. We're Nazis, Peter. I mean, Your Honor, and we like Smash Mouth.
He's literally quoting a Fox promo right now. Michael, you told the judge you're straight, but then you started pantomiming oral with Joe's son. You can't just start a megachurch to harvest the losses on your cap gains and then expect the court to listen to Elton John's greatest hits.
I have a right to defend my beneficiary designations. And I'll have you know my children, Bluefus and Clunt, are very real, even if their names sound like I made them up in a panic. If you send me to the Hooskow or the Gray Bar Saloon, I'll just find a 21-year-old and tell him where the keys are.
You're gonna get us funked up, Michael. Just tell the judge you acted like a real tool and you're ready to go home and feed the dog.
Never. I'd rather disappear like a serial killer in a 90s thriller. Your Honor, I offer you a choice. Either you let me go, or I'll stay here and do my Stewie go-around bit until the party's over. It's too long with no ending, just like an SNL bit.
He's literally quoting a Fox promo right now. Michael, you told the judge you're straight, but then you started pantomiming oral with Joe's son. You can't just start a megachurch to harvest the losses on your cap gains and then expect the court to listen to Elton John's greatest hits.
I have a right to defend my beneficiary designations. And I'll have you know my children, Bluefus and Clunt, are very real, even if their names sound like I made them up in a panic. If you send me to the Hooskow or the Gray Bar Saloon, I'll just find a 21-year-old and tell him where the keys are.
You're gonna get us funked up, Michael. Just tell the judge you acted like a real tool and you're ready to go home and feed the dog.
Never. I'd rather disappear like a serial killer in a 90s thriller. Your Honor, I offer you a choice. Either you let me go, or I'll stay here and do my Stewie go-around bit until the party's over. It's too long with no ending, just like an SNL bit.
I'm leaving. I'll be in the 70s doing the might as well be legal cocaine.
Wait for me, Sarah. I still need to know what was better, Forrest Gump or Pulp Fiction.
Sarah, the judge, was a total tool. He didn't even care that I played baseball in junior college. He actually tried to send me to the Hooskow, the Big House, or the Gray Bar Saloon. Can you believe the nerve of that guy? He even took my thesaurus. I need that. It's very, 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 very important.
Michael, you're lucky you only got a verbal warning, but instead of being grateful, you're standing here wondering if there's something you'd like to discuss. We need to get out of here before they realize you're the same guy who watched Ace Ventura 50 times and crapped himself.
I have a plan, Sarah. We're gonna sneak out the back. I'm a dog. I'm good. We'll head to the boardwalk and feed Alka-Seltzer tablets to the seagulls until the heat dies down. Or maybe we'll just go to a TikTok house and explain everything over a cup of coos.
A cup of coos. Michael, that's not a thing. You're just making stuff up again, like when you named our kids Bluefus and Clunt. Why can't you just be a husband to your wife and a father to your children for once? We're supposed to be giving each other emotional support.
I am giving you support. I'm offering you a choice. We can either stay here and wait for Joe to move in with all his big band records, or we can go find that Australian guy who married his catamaran. Didgeridoo, you take this boat to be your what?
I'm done, Michael. Your arguments are always so shallow and pedantic. I'm gonna go find my old self that's been buried by you and your lack of money.
Wait, don't go. I have something super special planned. We'll airdrop another time. And I promise, I'll never find a decade as good as the 80s again. Now, let's go play in the hot yard.
Sarah, we've been down here for 3 minutes and I think we're stuck. This place is like an SNL bit, too long with no ending. I'm also bummed because I'm missing that Australian guy's marriage to his catamaran. Didgeridoo, you take this boat to be your what?
Michael, focus. We are in the middle of nowhere because you thought we could hike back to the road and call for help. It's gonna get dark soon and we need a plan. Why are you carrying a dozen eggs and a Sara Lee cheesecake in a desert?
These are our rations, Sarah. I'm gonna divvy them out. I'll start with this pack of... Wait, why is my stomach empty? Oh, right. I ate the cheesecake while you were looking for the non-existent cell phone signal. It was a no-brainer.
You ate the rations? You are so shallow and pedantic. Now what are we supposed to do? I'm lying here asking you to be a husband and a father, and you're acting like a serial killer in a 90s thriller.
Don't worry, I have hair-related sports things in my pocket and a D battery. We can use the battery to signal for help, or I can use it on the next blue Subaru that dares to steal my spot in this wasteland. Plus, I've got Elton John's greatest hits. It's the only way to survive the heat.
I should have stayed in the 70s with the might-as-well-be legal cocaine. At least there, the people didn't try to win over prisoners by eating 7 eggs. Look, is that a Starbucks cup in the sand?
It's a sign, Sarah. Anything's possible, like when that cup made it onto Game of Thrones. Maybe we'll find a way out, or maybe we'll just airdrop another time. Until then, let's just enjoy the silence before Joe moves in with his big band records again.
Michael, I'm going to go find some shade. If I die out here, tell Bluefus and Clunt I loved them, even if those aren't their real names.
They'll never know the difference, Sarah. Now, does anyone have some Tums? I'm going on a Tums run.
Sarah, look, over there behind that cactus that looks like Elton John's haircut. It's a building. It's not just a gas station. It's a TikTok house in the middle of the desert. My God, jackpot. You know they're going to have good coups in there.
Michael, don't be ridiculous. Why would there be a TikTok house in the middle of a wasteland? It's probably just a hallucination brought on by your 7-egg breakfast. And please, put that D battery back in your pocket. You don't need to fight an influencer.
It's real, Sarah. Look at the ring lights in the window. I'm going to go in there and see if I can get a payment due on my Discover card handled. Maybe I'll even meet Duke Raleigh, the Instagram boy. I conveniently speak a little English, so I'll handle the negotiations.
This is exactly what I was worried about. You're gonna walk in there and start a bit that's too long with no ending, just like an SNL sketch. Can't you just be a normal human being and look for a phone to call the police?
Call the police? Oh, look who's walking back their defund the police stance because it's real life and not a tweet to impress Alyssa Milano. No, Sarah, we're going in. I'll tell them I'm a rich white lawyer from the Connecticut suburbs and they'll have to let us in.
Michael, wait. There's a guy in there chucking rocks and eating a sandwich out of foil. He looks like Joe's dad's best friend for 20 years. If you go in there, you're gonna get us funked up for sure.
I'm not afraid. I've been able to stay true to who I was, unlike Babs, who got buried by Carter and his money. I'm gonna walk in there, show them my driver's side airbags, and demand a veggie burger that's been thought out nice.
Fine, but if they ask about our children, don't you dare say their names are Bluefus and Clunt. I can't handle another lawsuit today.
Hello, is there a man named Cedric here who entertains? I've got a D battery and I'm not afraid to use it on your windshield. Sarah, this is it. Look at these kids. They're all doing mundane things in front of ring lights. This must be where the internet comes to die. I'm gonna handle this. Duke Rally Boy Instagram? I'm sorry, I also conveniently speak a little English. Tell me, is it true in America there's a man named Cedric who entertains?
Michael, stop it. You're embarrassing us. These kids aren't entertaining Cedric. They're making porn or Arby's commercials. I honestly can't tell the difference anymore. We just need a phone to call for help before we disappear like a serial killer in a 90s thriller.
Don't judge, Sarah. We just hand out shaved meats here. But wait, look, someone bullied little Boise today. They said her dad had the cheapest Tesla, the one you can't drive very far. That's it. I'm gonna find that kid and show him my D battery.
Michael, no. You can't attack a teenager because of a Tesla joke. You're acting like a rich white lawyer in the Connecticut suburbs who's lost his mind. And why are you holding a Starbucks cup like it's a prop from Game of Thrones?
It's an early adopter thing, Sarah. You wouldn't understand. If I show I actually can do these things, I'm all in to clear. Then I can get back to hustling drunk women upstairs with Tobin and Squee. This is the real me. My tummy's riding a horse. Giddy up.
I'm done. I'm officially done. Your arguments are always so shallow and pedantic. I'm going to find the exit. If I'm lucky, I'll find Sully Sullenberger and he'll fly me away from this nightmare in a plane where everyone can bring box cutters.
Wait, don't leave. I just got a text from Brian. He wants to know if I'm going on a Tums run. Ugh, so passive-aggressive. Sarah, if you leave, I'll just stay here and eat 7 eggs until I win over this whole TikTok house.
Just make sure they don't unstrap Joe from the chair before you leave.
Too late. The party's over. We'll airdrop another time.
Sarah, sneak out the back. We have to leave before they make us part of a viral dance challenge. I'm a dog. I'm good. I can sniff our way out of this gentrified city. But wait, look, the wall. We have to jump and touch the branch to get over it. If we make it, I'm sending these shoes right back to Zappos for a refund.
Michael, stop thinking about your online returns. We need to get back to the Connecticut suburbs where things are normal. This whole trip has been a big waste of time thanks to you. I'm worried we've become enemies, and that makes me sad. Why can't you just be a husband to your wife for once?
Don't be so dramatic, Sarah. That future hasn't happened yet. Besides, I have a plan. We'll airdrop another time and head straight to the brewery before it goes under. I just need to make sure I don't leave the doggy gate open again. I don't want Peppy eating Frankie's food. He's allergic.
It's been 3 days, Michael. Why haven't we found our way home? I'm starting to have the 7-hour itch. I just want to sit on my own couch and watch something that isn't a 90s thriller, and I definitely don't want to hear another word about those 7 eggs.
You're right, Sarah. No matter how hard I try, I'll never find a decade as good as the 80s. But look, there's our car. We can hike back and call for help from the road. I'll even let you check the grocery list one more time. Dozen eggs, orange juice, and that Sara Lee cheesecake I definitely didn't finish yet.
Just get in the car, Michael. If you say giddy up one more time, I'm gonna find that Australian guy and his catamaran.
Wait, did anyone unstrap Joe? Gee whiz, I think the party's over. Welcome back to the family, Sarah. Let's go home and do mundane things until we feel rich again.
Sarah, we're home. Sunday. The perfect day to dangle my feet in the pool with the other heavier wives. Look at this place. It's just as we left it, except for the loose burger meat on the floor. This is nice, isn't it, Beverly? I mean, Sarah.
Michael, I'm not Beverly, and why is there a cocktail waitress in our kitchen? Is that Jenna again? I leave for 3 days and our house becomes a gentrified gentleman's club. It's been so hard since Joe moved in with all his big band records.
Don't be so dramatic. I acted like a real tool before, I know, but I've got something super special planned to make it up to you. I was thinking we could defer our end-of-year bonus to the following fiscal quarter and harvest the losses on our cap gains. That's a no-brainer, Sarah.
You're talking about cap gains, but you can't even pay the Discover card bill. And why is there a dozen eggs on the dining table? Are you still trying to win over the prisoners of this neighborhood? It's shallow and pedantic, Michael.
It's about the deal, Sarah. If I show I actually can do these things, we're all in the clear. I'm still the same guy you've always loved. Besides, I need to check my beneficiary designation and see if I can name the dog as my primary heir.
The dog is allergic to Frankie's food, and you want to leave him the house? You're acting like a serial killer in a 90s thriller again. Why can't you just be a normal human being for once? Just be a husband to your wife and a father to your children.
I hear you, Sarah, but no matter how hard I try, I'll never find a decade as good as the 80s. Now, if anyone calls, I'll be in the 70s doing the might-as-well-be-legal cocaine. Cocaine, the real winner of the war on drugs.
I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. At least she doesn't try to explain her life using Smash-Mouth lyrics.
Wait, did we ever find out what was better, Forrest Gump or Pulp Fiction? Because one guy does what he's told and makes millions, but the girl tries to be different and, well, you know. Sarah, I've decided. If I can't have a mega church, I'm going to turn this living room into a time machine back to the 1980s. No matter how hard I try, I'll never find a decade as good as that one. I'm talking about big hair, neon lights, and the kind of cocaine that might as well be legal. Cocaine, the real winner of the war on drugs.
Michael, please, just be a husband to your wife and a father to your children for once. You can't just rebuild the 80s in our house. We have responsibilities. I'm still waiting for you to tell me our children's real names that don't sound like you made them up in a panic.
Their names are Bluefus and Clunt, Sarah. That face of Bluefus's was irreplaceable. And why are you worried about the future when we could be living in the past? I've even updated my beneficiary designation to include the ghost of Elton John. He's the one gay guy on Earth with a worse haircut than Pete Rose.
This is just another bit that's too long, with no ending, like an SNL sketch. You're acting like a serial killer in a 90s thriller again. Why can't we just have a normal life? I just want to go to the boardwalk and feed something to the seagulls that isn't Alka-Seltzer.
Normal is boring, Sarah. Normal is shallow and pedantic. I'd rather be rich and white in the Connecticut suburbs listening to Smash Mouth because we're Nazis and that's what we like. Besides, I already promised Joe I'd help him beat the crap out of the mean kids in the name of Jesus Christ.
You are going to get us funked up. If anyone calls, tell them I'm in the loo with Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. I can't handle another one of your epiphanies.
Fine, go. But don't think I didn't smell the Charleston chew on your breath at the service. I'll just stay here and eat my 7 eggs like the guy in that prison movie. It's the only way to stay true to who I was. Sarah, the party is finally starting. Look at these neon lights and this collection of Elton John's greatest hits. It's like the 80s just threw up in our Connecticut living room. I've even invited the cocktail waitress Jenna from the megachurch to hover over people's shoulders while pouring wine. This is the real me. My tummy's riding a horse. Giddy up!
Michael, I swear if Joe comes in here with one more big band record, I'm going to crack. And who is that guy at the door? He's wearing a Sully Sullenberger hat and smells like he hasn't showered since the Hudson landing. Is that another one of your early adopter friends?
That's just Levi. I already gave him a verbal warning, but he's here for the bit. Look, Sarah, anything's possible. Like when that Starbucks cup made it on a Game of Thrones. We're Nazis, Peter. I mean Sarah, and we like Smash Mouth, so that's what we're playing.
You are acting like a serial killer in a 90s thriller. Why can't you just be a normal human being and be a husband to your wife? You're 2.5 hours late for preschool, and you're here arguing about whether Forrest Gump was better than Pulp Fiction.
Forrest Gump is ridiculous, Sarah. One guy does what he's told and makes millions, but the girl tries to be different and dies. I'd rather stay here and eat my 7 eggs like a prison movie hero. It's a shallow and pedantic world, and I'm just trying to harvest the losses on our cap gains.
I'm done. I'm going to the boardwalk to feed Alka-Seltzer tablets to the seagulls. If I'm lucky, I'll disappear like a serial killer in a 90s thriller and never have to hear about Bluefus and Clunt ever again.
Wait, don't go. I have to tell you about the blue Subaru AZX475. I've carried this D battery for 3 years, and tonight is the night I break a windshield. It's a no-brainer, Sarah.
Just don't let the dog eat Frankie's food, Michael. He's allergic.
I know hair-related sports things, Sarah. I've got this.
Sarah, pull the car over right now. I see it. The blue Subaru ACXX475 is parked right there in front of the San Gennaro Festival. I've carried this D battery in my pocket every day for 3 years, and tonight, justice will be served. This is either gonna break a windshield, some teeth, or, well, let's just hope it's the windshield.
Michael, please, we are in the middle of a public festival. You're acting like a serial killer in a 90s thriller. Why can't you just be a normal human being and enjoy the Italian food? You're only a paper boy, Michael. Stop trying to be a vigilante.
I'm not just a paperboy, Sarah. I'm a man who was robbed of his dignity in a Target parking lot. Look, there's the driver. He's wearing a hat that looks like the one Sully Sullenberger wore when he landed in the Hudson. Hey, you! Yeah, you with the cheap Tesla energy. You stole my spot 3 years ago.
Michael, that's just a random guy eating a Charleston shoe. You're making a scene in front of the whole Connecticut suburb. This is going to be in our Fox promo, and I'm going to be so embarrassed. Can we just go home and check the answering machine?
Not until I get an apology. I find his silence shallow and pedantic. He thinks he can just drive away in his catamaran of a car while I'm stuck here being 2.5 hours late for preschool. I've got 7 eggs in my stomach, Michael, and I'm ready for a fight.
You're gonna get us sent to the Hooskow or the Gray Bar Saloon. Just put the battery back in your pocket and let's go. I'll even let you listen to Elton John's greatest hits on the way home.
Fine, but tell him I'm rich, and tell him my children, Bluefus and Clunt, are gonna sue his dad. This isn't over, Sara. My tummy's riding a horse. Giddy up!
I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. At least she doesn't carry heavy electronics as a hobby.
Sara, I've decided to turn over a new leaf. The Subaru hunt is over and the megachurch is on hiatus. I'm finding touch with who I was before I got buried by life in the Connecticut suburbs. From now on, I'm only doing mundane things. My new hobby is cleaning gutters and baking cookies for the neighbors. It's a total no-brainer.
Skeptically, Michael, you haven't been normal since the 80s. Are you sure this isn't just because you're 2.5 hours late for preschool again? And why are you wearing a hat that looks like the one Sully Sullenberger wore when he landed in the Hudson?
This is my peaceful hat, Sara. Sully never sweats, and neither do I when I'm in the zone. I've even prepared a veggie burger that'll thaw out nice. You can suck on it while I work. I'm still the same guy you've always loved, just with more fiber and less D batteries in my pocket.
Sigh. I'm just glad to see you're no longer crying on the couch about leavened bread. But don't think I didn't see the dozen eggs on the counter. Please tell me you aren't going to eat all of them just to win over the people at the garden club.
7 eggs is a reasonable amount, Sara. It worked in that prison movie, and it'll work on the PTA board. I want you to meet the cocktail waitress I'm about to hire as my baking assistant. This is Jenna. You might remember her boobs from the megachurch.
Rubbing her temples. Michael, this isn't a hobby, it's a cry for help. You're acting like a serial killer in a 90s thriller again. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson in the loo and ask her if she has any might-as-well-be legal cocaine left from the 70s.
Fine, but when I'm on the New York Times bestseller list for my cookie recipes, you'll be sorry. I'll be hanging out with Reese Witherspoon's manager while you're stuck here wondering if the dog is still allergic to Frankie's food.
Walking away. Just don't forget to feed the kids, Michael, even if their names are Bluefus and Clunt.
Sara, behold, I just baked some cookies. I finally found my calling as a suburban baker. I'm even thinking of getting them signed by Sully Sullenberger himself tomorrow at the airport bookstore. It's a no-brainer. I've put so much heart into these that I might even let the answering machine get the phone while I work.
Michael, why is the kitchen filled with smoke, and why are there 7 eggs, whole and uncracked, inside the cookie dough? You're acting like a tool again. This isn't baking, it's a culinary serial killer in a 90s thriller. I can't believe I'm still married to a man who thinks he's an early adopter of putting raw eggs in cookies.
It's a prison movie technique, Sara. You have to win over the oven before you can win over the people. I've also included a Sara Lee cheesecake that I took tiny finger pinches of all the way home. It adds character. Besides, I'm rich in spirit, and if anyone complains, I'll just tell them my dad is going to sue them.
Michael, the oven is literally shaking. It's like an SNL bit that's gone on way too long with no ending. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson in the loo. At least she doesn't try to explain her life using Smash Mouth lyrics. Wait, is that the dog eating the raw dough? He's gonna have a mess in here.
He's fine, Sarah. He's just a dog. He's good. Although he might be allergic to the Charleston Chew I dropped in there earlier. But look on the bright side. I haven't mentioned the blue Subaru in at least 10 minutes. That's a record for a rich white lawyer in the Connecticut suburbs.
I'm done. I'm officially done. Your arguments are always so shallow and pedantic. I'm gonna disappear like a serial killer in a 90s thriller. If I'm not back in an hour, tell Bluefus and Clunt that I've moved in with Joe and his big band records.
Wait, don't go. The cookies are ready. Or they're alive, I can't tell. My tummy's riding a horse. Giddy up. We'll airdrop another time, Sarah.
Sarah, I don't know why we're here. This therapist's office is just a big cell. And what's the difference? One's big, one's fat. What's wrong with people today? I feel like I'm being audited by a rich white lawyer in the Connecticut suburbs again. I'd rather be at home wondering if there's something you'd like to discuss while Joe moves in with all his big band records.
Michael, please. Just be a normal human being for once. We are here because you've been able to stay true to who you were, but I've lost touch with that. It's been buried by your nonsense and your lack of money. I'm lying here asking you to kick your weird habits out of this house.
My habits? I offer you a choice, Sarah. We can either talk about our feelings or we can discuss why Forrest Gump is ridiculous. One guy does what he's told and makes millions, but a girl tries to be different and ends up in a tragic montage? I find your argument for therapy shallow and pedantic.
Every damn Wednesday, it's the same thing with you. You think you're a hero, but you're just a guy who watched Ace Ventura 50 times and laughed so hard you crapped yourself. Can't you just be a husband to your wife and a father to your children, even if you did name them Bluefus and Clunt in a panic?
Hey, Bluefus's face was irreplaceable. And I'm doing my best. I even checked the freezer for that veggie burger. It'll thaw out nice, you'll suck on it. That's emotional support, Sarah. If you don't like it, I'll just disappear like a serial killer in a 90s thriller.
I'm done. I am so done. I'm going to go see Sully Sullenberger at the airport bookstore. I heard he never sweats, not even when he's dealing with people as crazy as you.
Fine, go. But tell Sully I want his actual hat. And don't think I didn't smell the Charleston Chew on your breath at the service. I'm gonna stay here and eat 7 eggs until this therapist understands religion's whole deal. Giddy up.
Woohoo! Sarah, therapy was a total waste of time. That doctor didn't even know hair-related sports things. I've decided on a new path to stay true to who I am. Like most fighters, I've fallen in love with the idea of being a local legend. I'm going to become a prize fighter. It's the only way to win over the other guys, just like eating 7 eggs in that prison movie.
Michael, you aren't a fighter. You're a man who crapped himself in a theater watching Ace Ventura. You're acting like a tool again. Can't you just be a normal human being for once and be a husband to your wife? You're gonna get your eye beat up again in a fight, and I'm the one who has to listen to you cry.
It's about the struggle, Sarah. When you have someone to hate, you have something to live for. I'll fight anyone. I'll fight the guy in the blue Subaru who stole my spot at Target. I've carried this D battery in my pocket every day since, and now it's my secret weapon. I'll be one of the pet shop boys of the ring.
This is just another bit that's too long with no ending. You're gonna walk into the ring and realize you only paid for driver's side airbags when you get hit. Why can't you just go back to the 80s like you said and do the might as well be legal cocaine? It's a lot safer than getting punched in the face.
No, Sarah, this is my calling. I'm rich in spirit. I'll name my signature move the old pocket knife. I'll win the belt and then I'll get it signed by Sully Sullenberger himself. I heard the man never sweats even under the pressure of landing in the Hudson.
I'm done. Your arguments are always so shallow and pedantic. I'm gonna find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. Maybe she has some Desenex for my tired feet because listening to you is like running a marathon in the desert.
Fine, but don't think I didn't smell the Charleston Chew on your breath. I'm gonna go find Joe and see if he wants to be my trainer. We make a better team at home anyway. Giddy up.
Sara, look at me. I'm finally training. I've recruited Joe to be my coach because he was my dad's best friend for 20 years. He's got me chucking rocks and eating sandwiches out of foil to build grit. It actually sounds pretty good, right? Like most fighters, I'm embracing the struggle before I meet the artistic girl at the pet shop and become one of her pet shop boys.
Sir, you're not training. You're just standing in the backyard in a Sully Sullenberger hat smelling like sweat, even though you claimed Sully never sweats. And why are you holding 7 eggs? Are you going to eat those before you hit the heavy bag, or is this another prison movie fantasy? This is getting so hard since Joe moved in with all his big band records and now his boxing equipment.
It's called method training, Sara. I have to be ready for the ring. I'm doing mundane things to stay focused. I told Joe that if he doesn't push me, I'll find someone else, literally anyone. I'll even hire Gilbert Gottfried, even if he was fired by Aflac for no reason. I need to be fast, like a serial killer in a 90s thriller.
You're gonna get beat up again in a fight, just like the last time your eye got swollen. You're acting like a rich white lawyer in the Connecticut suburbs who thinks he's Rocky. Why can't you just be a husband to your wife and a father to your children, Bluefus and Clunt, for once?
Because I have something to live for, Sara. I have a blue Subaru that hate. I'm gonna win that match, and then I'm gonna buy a new dog. Not because something's wrong with the old one, I just want a new one. Maybe a dog that doesn't have an allergic reaction to Frankie's food every damn Wednesday.
Your arguments are always so shallow and pedantic. I'm gonna go check the answering machine for any sanity left in this world. If the brewery goes under because you're busy chucking rocks, don't come crying to me.
I'm rich in spirit, Sara. I'm gonna harvest the losses on my cap gains and become a legend. Now, Joe, put on that Elton John record and let's get to work. Giddy up. Sara, look at this. I'm finally in the ring. The Great Suburban Showdown is officially on. I'm wearing my Sully Sullenberger hat for luck, because as we know, Sully never sweats. Joe is in my corner playing those big band records so loud I can barely hear my own survival instincts. I've eaten my 7 eggs, and I'm ready to win over this crowd just like a hero in a prison movie.
Michael, you look ridiculous. You're standing in a boxing ring with red gloves and a pilot's hat. This isn't a fight. It's an SNL bit that's gone on way too long with no ending. Look at your opponent. He's wearing a blue tracksuit that says Subaru on it. You're gonna get beat up again, and this time your eye isn't the only thing that's gonna be swollen.
It's destiny, Sara. He's the physical manifestation of every parking spot I've ever lost. I find his presence shallow and pedantic. I've got my D battery tucked into my boxing trunks just in case things get real. If I win, I'm getting a new dog, and I don't care what's wrong with the old one.
Michael, the dog is eating a Sara Lee cheesecake right next to the ring. And is that Jenna, the cocktail waitress, handing out shaved meats to the referee? This is a disaster. You're 2.5 hours late for preschool, and you're about to get funked up in front of the whole Connecticut suburb.
Let him watch. I'm rich in spirit. I'm gonna harvest the losses on my cap gains and become a legend. Joe, drop the needle on that Elton John record. It's time for the old pocket knife to make its debut. Giddy up.
I'm going to find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. At least she doesn't try to win boxing matches using 80s nostalgia and raw eggs.
Woohoo!
Sara, did you see that? I may be lying on the floor and my left eye might be closed tighter than a rich white lawyer's wallet, but I think I won. I stayed true to who I was. I took those punches like a man who's been buried by his own lack of money for years. That Subaru guy didn't know what hit him. Well, mostly because I tripped over Joe's big band records before I could even swing, but it's the principle.
Michael, you didn't win. You were knocked out in 3 seconds by a guy who was just trying to hand you a summons for your Discover card debt. You're acting like a tool again. You've got egg on your face, literally, because those 7 eggs you ate decided to make a comeback right in the middle of the second round. It was shallow and pedantic, Michael.
It was a strategic retreat, Sara. I was harvesting the losses on my physical health to defer the pain to the next fiscal quarter. Besides, did you see the crowd? They were chanting my name. Or maybe they were just shouting, "Get a job!" It's hard to tell when you've got a concussion and Elton John is singing Rocket Man in your ear.
No one was chanting, Michael. They were all recording you for a TikTok house fail compilation. You're going to be more canceled than a show about a dog that can talk. Can we just go home and feed the dog? He's been eating the leftover cheesecake, and I'm worried about his allergic reaction to Frankie's food.
Not yet! I need to find the referee and tell him my dad is going to sue his dad. This whole fight was rigged like a serial killer in a 90s thriller. I'm a prize fighter, Sara. I'm a legend in this Connecticut suburb. Now, where's my Sully Sullenberger hat? I need it to hide the fact that I'm crying.
It's in the ring, Michael, right next to your dignity and that D battery you dropped. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson and ask her if there's any might-as-well-be legal cocaine left. I can't handle this giddy-up energy anymore.
Wait for me! I still have to check the beneficiary designations on my life insurance. Giddy up!
Sara, fetch the Desenex and some ice. I'm a wounded warrior. This eye is so swollen I can only see the world in low resolution, just like a TikTok video from 2018. I'm a local legend who's been battered by the system and by a guy in a blue Subaru tracksuit. I need emotional support, Sara. I need you to tell me that I'm still the most handsome, rich, white lawyer in the Connecticut suburbs.
Cyril, you're sitting on the couch with a bag of frozen peas on your head and you're wearing a bathrobe over your boxing shorts. You look like a serial killer in a 90s thriller who's given up on life. And please, stop calling it a war wound. You tripped over Joe's big band records and hit your face on the turnbuckle. It was shallow and pedantic, Michael.
It's the struggle that defines us, Sara. Look at Sully Sullenberger. He landed in the Hudson and didn't sweat, but I bet his eye was swollen from the pressure of being a hero. I've decided that since I can't fight anymore, I'm going to write a memoir. I'll call it 7 Eggs and a D Battery, The Michael Story. I'll be on the New York Times bestseller list by Friday.
You can't even write a grocery list without spelling juice with a Z. How are you going to write a memoir? You're just looking for an excuse to sit around and have Jenna, the cocktail waitress, bring you shaved meats and ginger ale. Why can't you just be a normal human being and feed the dog? He's staring at your frozen peas like they're Frankie's food.
The dog is fine, Sara. He's just a dog. He's good. Besides, he needs to learn about sacrifice. I told him if he doesn't behave, I'll harvest the losses on his treats and defer them to next year. Now, bring me my thesaurus. I need to find a word for pain that sounds more prestigious. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson in the loo. At least she doesn't try to turn a black eye into a literary career. If I'm lucky, I'll disappear like a serial killer in a 90s thriller before you start reading me your first chapter. Shouting, Chapter 1. It was a blue Subaru kind of morning. Giddy up, Sara. We'll airdrop another time.
Sara, quiet. The muse is speaking to me. I'm writing the opening chapter of my life story. I've titled it The D Battery Chronicles, How One Rich White Lawyer Saved the Suburbs. It starts with a dramatic monologue about the day I was robbed of my parking spot. It's like a 90s thriller, but with more hair-related sports things and fewer box cutters.
Michael, you've been staring at a blank screen for 40 minutes, and the only thing you've typed is the word Giddy up in a 48-point font. You're not writing a memoir, you're just procrastinating so you don't have to clean the mess the dog made after eating that Sara Lee cheesecake. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael.
I'm building the world, Sarah. I have to explain why Forrest Gump was a tool and why I'm the real hero of our generation. I'm going to include a scene where I have a deep emotional conversation with Sully Sullenberger in the middle of the Hudson. I'll ask him, Sully, how do you keep your pilot hat so straight while landing on water? It's the kind of content that gets you on the New York Times bestseller list.
Sully Sullenberger doesn't know you, Michael. The closest you ever got to him was standing outside an airport bookstore with a dozen eggs and a dream. Why can't you just be a normal human being and tell me our children's real names? I'm starting to think you actually believe their names are Bluefus and Clunt.
Their names are part of my brand now, Sarah. I told the ghostwriter I'm planning to hire, who is just Joe with a typewriter, that the story needs more conflict. I'm going to frame the blue Subaru driver as a secret double agent for the brewery. We'll harvest the losses of my reputation to create a narrative arc that'll make Reese Witherspoon's manager weep.
You're going to get sued by the Subaru driver, the brewery, and probably Elton John for using his greatest hits as a plot device. I'm going to go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She says she has a way out of this gentrified nightmare, and it involves a catamaran and an Australian guy who doesn't talk about cap gains.
Go ahead, but when I'm doing the late-night talk show circuit talking about how 7 eggs changed my life, you'll be the one crying on the boardwalk. Giddy up, Sarah. The truth is irrelevant when you have a good font.
Woohoo! Sarah, we're here. Boyce and Jacksonville Publishing. It's a boutique firm I found on the back of a Tums bottle. I've got my manuscript right here, all 3 pages of it, mostly written in crayon and old Discover card statements. This is the moment I become a literary giant in the Connecticut suburbs. They'll have to give me a driver's side airbag just for my ego.
Michael, this isn't a publishing house. This is a copy shop next to a dry cleaner that smells like burnt hair and sadness. The CEO is a guy named Todd who's wearing a Sully Sullenberger hat and eating a Sara Lee cheesecake with his bare hands. You're acting like a tool again. No one is going to publish a book titled The D-Battery Manifesto. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael.
Todd is a visionary, Sarah. He told me he can harvest the losses on my grammar and defer my punctuation to the 2nd edition. He says my chapter on why Forrest Gump is a tool is brave and might as well be legal. I'm thinking of doing a book tour in a blue Subaru just to mock the enemy.
You're going to pay this man $3,000 to print 50 copies of your diary, aren't you? We're already buried by your lack of money and the fact that the dog is allergic to Frankie's food. Why can't you just be a normal human being and get a job at the brewery? At least there, the only thing you'll break is a bottle, not our bank account.
A job? I'm an author, Sarah. I have something to live for. Todd promised me a release party at the boardwalk where we'll feed Alka-Seltzer to the seagulls and call it performance art. It's an early adopter thing. If you don't support me, I'll just name the cocktail waitress Jenna as my primary beneficiary.
I'm done. I'm going to go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She said she's starting a new life in the 70s where everyone just does cocaine and ignores people like you. If I'm lucky, I'll disappear like a serial killer in a 90s thriller before the first copy of your book is printed.
Fine, but don't ask for a signed copy when I'm on Oprah. Chapter 2 is called Bluffus and Clunt, a study in irreplaceable faces. Giddy up, Sarah. The ink is still wet.
Sarah, it's here, the first printed copy of my soul. Look at that cover art. It's a D-Battery wearing a pilot's hat standing over a defeated Subaru. It's majestic. Todd at the copy shop really outdid himself. He even used a font that looks like it was stolen from a 90s thriller. This is it, Sarah. I'm finally staying true to who I was.
Michael, the title says The D-Battery Manifesto? You spelled both battery and manifesto wrong. And why is the entire book printed on the back of old CVS receipts? You can literally see your prescription for Tums through the pages of Chapter 3. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael, even for you.
It's an indie aesthetic, Sarah. It's about the raw, unedited truth. I told Todd to harvest the losses on the spell check and defer the corrections to the audiobook, which I'm going to record in the loo to get that prison movie acoustics. I'm an early adopter of the no grammar movement.
I just flipped to page 10, and it's just a screenshot of your Discover card balance with a caption that says, "The struggle is real." You're going to get sued by the bank, the dictionary, and probably the trees that died to make this garbage. Why can't you just be a normal human being and feed the dog? He's literally chewing on the corner of Chapter 5.
Let him eat it. It's high-fiber literature. Besides, I've already sent a copy to Reese Witherspoon's manager. I told him the role of Michael should be played by a rich white lawyer who's able to stay cool under pressure, like Sully Sullenberger. If he doesn't call back, I'll just funk him up in the sequel.
I'm done. I'm going to the boardwalk. I'm going to find that Australian guy and his catamaran and sail away to a land where people don't print their own delusions. If I'm lucky, I'll disappear like a serial killer in a 90s thriller before you start your book signing at the brewery.
Book signing? Great idea. I'll bring the dozen eggs and the Sara Lee cheesecake. Giddy up, Sarah. We're going on a world tour of the Connecticut suburbs.
Sarah, look at this turnout. We've sold 0 copies, and the only person in line is Joe, and he's only here because he thinks I'm handing out free shaved meats. But look at this setup. I've got the Elton John records playing, a dozen eggs on the table for author energy, and I'm wearing my lucky Sully Sullenberger hat. I'm a literary line in a Connecticut suburb.
Sarah, we are sitting in the parking lot of a closed Blockbuster. There is no one here. Even the dog looks embarrassed, and he's the one who spent the morning eating Frankie's food and having an allergic reaction. You're acting like a tool again. No one wants a book signed by a guy who smells like D batteries and desperation. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael.
They're just intimidated by my genius, Sarah. I told the one guy who walked by, who was actually just a process server, that my story does not end here. I'm harvesting the losses of this event to create a sold-out narrative on my TikTok house page. It's a no-brainer. If I can stay true to who I am, the fans will come.
The only thing sold out is your sanity. You've spent our last $200 on a banner that says, "Meet the man who hates Subarus." You're gonna get us funked up. Why can't you just be a normal human being and admit that Chapter 6, the one titled Bluffus's Irreplaceable Face, is just a drawing of a potato?
It's a metaphor, Sarah. A potato has many eyes, just like I have many perspectives on why Forrest Gump is a tool. But look, someone's coming. Is it Reese Witherspoon's manager? No, wait. It's just the owner of the blue Subaru ACX475. He looks like he's ready for a confrontation.
Oh God, here we go. He's probably here to sue you for harassment. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson in the loo. If I'm lucky, I'll disappear like a serial killer in a 90s thriller before the police arrive.
Shh, stay back, Subaru man. I have a D battery, and I'm not afraid to use it as a bookmark. Giddy up, Sarah. This is the climax of my memoir. Woohoo! Step back, Subaru man. I know why you're here. You're here to suppress my literary genius because Chapter 4 exposes your parking spot stealing ways. I've got my Sully Sullenberger hat on, and my hand is firmly gripping this D battery. Don't make me use it. I'm a rich white lawyer in a Connecticut suburb, and I've got nothing to lose but my dignity, which, let's be honest, is already in the loo with Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson.
Michael, put the battery down. He's not here to fight. He's holding a copy of your book. And wait, is he crying? Michael, he's actually moved by your potato bluefist metaphor. You're acting like a tool, and for once, someone actually likes it. This is weirder than a serial killer in a 90s thriller who stops to bake a Sara Lee cheesecake.
He likes it? He thinks my arguments are not shallow and pedantic? To the driver, you enjoyed the part where I compared your engine noise to the singing voice of Gilbert Gottfried? Well, of course you did. It's brave. It might as well be legal.
He says he's a fellow early adopter of Suburban rage and he wants to buy 10 copies for his TikTok house friends. Michael, you've accidentally found your audience, people who are just as funked up as you are. Can we finally go home now and feed the dog? He's been eating my desk snacks, and I'm pretty sure he can see through time now.
Home? No, we're going to the brewery. My new best friend here is going to drive us in the blue Subaru. I'm going to harvest the losses of our rivalry and defer our friendship to the following fiscal quarter. It's a no-brainer.
I'm not getting in that car. It's a trap. It's like the ending of a prison movie where you think you're free, but you're just in a bigger yard. I'll meet you there, Michael. I'm taking the catamaran.
Fine, but make sure Joe brings the big band records. We're going to have a celebratory dozen eggs. Giddy up, Subaru man, to the 80s and beyond.
Sara, meet my new business partner, Kevin. We've had an epiphany while sitting in the back of his blue Subaru ACXX 475. We're going to launch a consulting firm for suburban vengeance and battery management. We'll harvest the losses of our mutual hatred and defer the profits to a shell company in Boise. It's a no-brainer. We're calling it the D-Battery Dynasty.
Michael, you've got to be kidding me. 10 minutes ago, you were ready to break his windshield, and now you're starting a dynasty with him? You're acting like a tool again. Kevin looks like he hasn't washed his Sully Sullenberger hat since the Hudson landing. This is shallow and pedantic, even for a rich white lawyer in a Connecticut suburb.
It's about synergy, Sara. Kevin has the car, I have the D-batteries, and we both think Forrest Gump is a tool. We're going to offer a subscription service where we chuck rocks at people's problems and eat sandwiches out of foil for moral support. I've already updated my beneficiary designations to include Kevin's cat.
And what about the book? And the megachurch, and the dog who's currently having a mess in the kitchen because you forgot to feed him anything but Sara Lee cheesecake. You're disappearing into this nonsense like a serial killer in a 90s thriller. Can't you just be a normal human being and help me find the veggie burger in the freezer?
The veggie burger can wait, Sara. We have a meeting at the brewery with Reese Witherspoon's manager's assistant's cousin. We're going to pitch him a reality show about two middle-aged men who are 2.5 hours late for preschool, but still have time to be pet shop boys.
I'm done. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson and see if she wants to join a commune in the 70s, where the only thing we discuss is why Elton John's haircut is better than yours.
Fine, but don't come crying to me when we're on the New York Times bestseller list for innovative loitering. Kevin, put on the big band records. Giddy up, we're going to Jacksonville.
Sara, clear the dining table. Our first official client for the D-Battery Dynasty has arrived. It's Joe. He's having a crisis because someone bullied him about his lawn ornaments being too 90s thriller. I told him, Joe, we can harvest the losses of your dignity and defer your retaliation to next Saturday. It's a professional services no-brainer.
Michael, Joe is only here because you told him you had free beer and a way to get his big band records onto the New York Times bestseller list. You're acting like a tool again. You and Kevin are sitting there in matching Sully Sullenberger hats, and you haven't even given Joe a chair. He's just hovering like a cocktail waitress named Jenna. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael.
It's an active standing meeting, Sarah. Kevin and I are consulting. Joe, for a small fee of 7 eggs and a signed copy of my memoir, we will go to your neighbor's house and look at them very judgmentally from the sidewalk. We might even chuck a small, might-as-well-be-legal rock at their mailbox.
You're going to get us arrested. Or worse, you're going to get us sued by a guy who actually knows how to use a driver's side airbag. Why can't you just be a normal human being and help me find the dog? He's disappeared again, and I'm pretty sure he's hiding in the loo with Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson to escape your synergy.
The dog is fine. He's good. He's probably just out buying more Desenex for his paws. Now, back to business. Kevin, pull up the spreadsheet on the back of this Sara Lee cheesecake box. Joe, if you want the Suburban Vengeance package, you'll have to agree to listen to Elton John's greatest hits for 6 hours straight. It's religion's whole deal. Suffering leads to results.
I'm done. I'm going to the boardwalk. I'm going to find a serial killer in a 90s thriller and ask him to take me away from this Connecticut suburb. At least a serial killer has a plan that doesn't involve battery management.
Wait, Joe hasn't paid his tithes in shaved meats yet. Giddy up, Joe, to the neighbor's mailbox. We're making history, or at least a very long SNL bit with no ending. Woohoo!
Sarah, don't look now, but there's a blue and white car behind us that isn't a Subaru. It's the police. Apparently, chucking rocks at a mailbox is considered vandalism in this gentrified nightmare of a neighborhood. Kevin, hide the D batteries under your Sully Sullenberger hat. I'll handle this. I'm a rich white lawyer and I know hair-related sports things.
Michael, pull over. You're gonna get us funked up. You've got a dozen eggs in the glove box and a manuscript written on CVS receipts. You're acting like a serial killer in a 90s thriller who's been caught at a toll booth. Why can't you just be a normal human being and stop trying to harvest the losses of your criminal record?
Rolling down the window. Good evening, officer. I'm Michael, and this is my associate, Kevin. We were just performing a routine stress test on the local infrastructure. It's a no-brainer. We're early adopters of a new neighborhood watch program where we use Elton John's music to deter loitering. I find your flashing lights a bit shallow and pedantic, to be honest.
Officer, please ignore him. He's 2.5 hours late for preschool, and he's had a very long day of eating Sara Lee cheesecake. He doesn't have a weapon, unless you count a heavy-duty battery and a really bad attitude about Forrest Gump.
Sarah, stay out of this. Officer, I have a beneficiary designation that includes the mayor's cat. I'm staying true to who I am. And if you try to arrest me, I'll have my dad sue your dad. It's religion's whole deal. You can't persecute a man for his might-as-well-be-legal hobbies.
Michael, he's reaching for his handcuffs, not his autograph book. You're not on the New York Times bestseller list. You're on a wanted poster at the brewery. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. Maybe she can post bail with the money she saved from not buying your memoir.
As he's being stepped out of the car. Wait, does this mean I can't go to the boardwalk and feed Alka-Seltzer to the seagulls? This is exactly like a prison movie. I'm being audited by the universe. Giddy up, Kevin. Tell them we're Nazis and we like Smash Mouth.
Sarah, you finally came to visit. Look at me. I'm finally in a real cell. It's exactly like the movies, except the guy in the bunk above me keeps humming big band records and it's really ruining the gritty vibe. I've already established myself as the alpha here. I told the guard his uniform was shallow and pedantic, and I demanded my 7 eggs for breakfast.
Michael, you've been here for 3 hours for disturbing the peace and unauthorized use of a D battery. You're not a prison legend. You're a rich white lawyer in a Connecticut suburb who's making the other inmates uncomfortable by talking about your cap gains and your haircut. Why can't you just be a normal human being and let me pay the bail?
Bail and leave my kingdom? No way, Sarah. I'm staying true to who I am. I've already started a library with the 3 copies of my memoir I had in my pockets. The inmates love Chapter 5, the one where I explain why Forrest Gump is a tool. I'm like a serial killer in a 90s thriller, but with better beneficiary designations.
Michael, the inmates aren't loving your book. They're using the pages to roll cigarettes because Todd at the copy shop used such cheap paper. And Kevin is in the next cell over crying because they took away his Sully Sullenberger hat. This is a disaster. Even the dog is outside the station having an allergic reaction to the sidewalk.
Sacrifice is part of the deal, Sarah. It's religion's whole deal. I told the warden if he doesn't give me a Sara Lee cheesecake, I'll have my dad sue his dad. I'm an early adopter of prison reform. Besides, I've heard the food here might as well be legal.
I'm done. I'm going to go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She's waiting in the car with a catamaran brochure and a dream. If I'm lucky, I'll disappear like a serial killer in a 90s thriller before you start your prison choir singing Elton John's greatest hits.
Shouting through the bars, "Wait! Tell Joe to send more Desinex, and don't forget to check the answering machine for any calls from Reese Witherspoon. Giddy up, Sarah. I'm harvesting the losses of my freedom."
Sarah, I'm back, and I'm changed. 3 hours in that cell with Kevin and a guy named Large Marge has given me a new perspective. I've reached a state of suburban enlightenment. I'm no longer just a rich white lawyer, I'm a spiritual guide. I've realized that life is just one big blue Subaru, and we're all just D batteries trying to find our flashlights. It's a total spiritual no-brainer.
Michael, you were only in there for 3 hours. You didn't find enlightenment. You found a way to avoid cleaning the gutters. You're acting like a tool again. You're wearing your bathrobe backwards, and you've drawn a third eye on your forehead with a Sharpie. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael, even for a Monday.
Don't limit my growth, Sarah. I've decided to harvest the losses of my ego and defer my desires to the following fiscal quarter. I'm starting a new movement called the Church of the Irreplaceable Face. We'll meet every damn Wednesday to discuss why Elton John is the ultimate deity and why Forrest Gump was actually the devil in a plaid shirt.
This is just another bit that's too long with no ending. You're not a guru. You're just a guy who's 2.5 hours late for preschool and smells like jailhouse chili and Sara Lee cheesecake. Why can't you just be a normal human being and help me find the dog? He's currently trying to meditate with a bowl of Frankie's food, and it's going to end in an allergic disaster.
The dog is on his own journey, Sarah. He's staying true to who he was. I've already contacted the brewery to see if they'll let me hold my enlightenment seminars in the fermentation room. I told them it's might as well be legal religion. If they say no, I'll just disappear like a serial killer in a 90s thriller and reappear as a catamaran pilot.
I'm done. I'm going to go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She said she found a way to reset the timeline back to the 80s where you were just a guy with a bad haircut and not a spiritual leader for idiots.
Wait, I haven't shown you the D battery salutation yet. It involves a dozen eggs and a very specific way of holding a Sully Sullenberger hat. Giddy up, Sarah. The universe is calling, and it sounds like Smash Mouth.
Woohoo! Welcome, seekers of truth. Welcome to the first seminar of the Church of the Irreplaceable Face, held right here in the brewery parking lot next to a pile of discarded kegs. We are here to harvest the losses of our souls. Look at Kevin. He's our high priest today because he's wearing a Sully Sullenberger hat and holding a D battery like it's a holy relic. It's a spiritual no-brainer.
Michael, there are only 3 people here. One is Joe, who is clearly just here for the free samples, and the other 2 are seagulls waiting for you to drop those Alka-Seltzer tablets you call holy manna. You're acting like a tool again. This isn't a religion, it's a zoning violation. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael.
Silence, non-believers. We are discussing the deep theology of the 80s. I realized that the war on drugs was actually won by cocaine, and that's a metaphor for something. I'm staying true to who I was when I had a full head of hair and a sense of purpose. Joe, stop eating the dozen eggs. Those are for the ritualistic prison movie reenactment later.
You're gonna get us funked up. The brewery manager is already calling security because you've taped pages of your memoir to the fermentation tanks. You're disappearing into this cult leader persona like a serial killer in a 90s thriller. Why can't you just be a normal human being and admit that your third eye is just a Sharpie smudge?
It's a portal to the 70s, Sara. I told everyone that if they donate their cap gains to the church, I'll give them a signed copy of my book and a veggie burger that'll thaw out nice. They can suck on it. It's religion's whole deal. If we don't reach enlightenment by sunset, I'll just rename the dog as the High Oracle and have him decide our fiscal policy.
The dog is currently having an allergic reaction to the incense you made out of burnt death necks and old Elton John lyrics. I'm done. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She says the only true enlightenment is a cold drink and a husband who doesn't think he's the second coming of Sully Sullenberger.
Wait, we haven't gotten to the part where we curse the blue Subaru. Kevin, start the big band records. Giddy up, seekers. The path to heaven is paved with Sara Lee cheesecake.
Sara, don't let them in. The Pharisees from the zoning board are here to shut down the Church of the Irreplaceable Face. They claim that having Kevin stand on a blue Subaru while shouting Elton John lyrics through a megaphone is a public nuisance. I told them it's a First Amendment no-brainer. We're staying true to who we are, even if who we are is currently vibrating from too much caffeine and prison movie nostalgia.
Michael, they're not Pharisees. They're the police, and they're here because you tried to baptize Joe in a vat of IPA at the brewery. You're acting like a tool again. You've got a dozen eggs stuffed in your pockets, and you're wearing a Sully Sullenberger hat that's 3 sizes too small. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael, even for a cult leader in the Connecticut suburbs.
It was a sacred immersion, Sara. Joe needed to wash away the sins of listening to those big band records. I told the officer that I have a beneficiary designation that makes this brewery a holy site. If he shuts us down, I'll have my dad sue the entire city council. I'm a rich white lawyer, and I'm ready to harvest the losses of my civil liberties to win this fight.
You're gonna get us funked up again. You're appearing in this drama like a serial killer in a 90s thriller who's run out of clever lines. Why can't you just be a normal human being and admit that your holy manna is just Alka-Seltzer tablets you stole from the pharmacy? The seagulls are exploding, Michael. It's a massacre on the boardwalk.
They're ascending, Sara. It's an early adopter thing. Look at Kevin. He's already negotiating our surrender in exchange for a Sara Lee cheesecake and a verbal warning. He has no spine. He's like a character in a movie who does what he's told and makes millions, while I'm the girl who tries to be different and, well, you know.
I'm done. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She's already packed the catamaran, and she says there's a place in the 70s where no one knows what a D battery is. If I'm lucky, I'll disappear before you try to excommunicate the mailman for not wearing neon.
Wait, the mailman is a heretic. He drives a white truck, not a blue Subaru. Giddy up, Sara. The war for the suburbs has just begun. Sara, this is it, the climax of my memoir. The church is gone, the dynasty is in ruins, and I'm 2.5 hours late for life itself.
but I have one final move to stay true to who I am. I've decided to hijack Joe's catamaran and sail it directly into the Hudson River. I'll be the Sully Sullenberger of the suburbs. I've got my dozen eggs, my D battery, and a copy of Elton John's greatest hits to guide me home.
Michael, you don't know how to sail. You can't even navigate a Target parking lot without starting a 3-year blood feud over a blue Subaru. You're acting like a serial killer in a 90s thriller who's finally run out of gas. This is shallow and pedantic, even for your midlife crisis. Why can't you just be a normal human being and come inside to eat the veggie burger? It's finally thought out.
I can't eat, Sarah. I'm harvesting the losses of my appetite to fuel my journey to the 80s. I'm going to find that decade, and I'm going to stay there, where the hair was big and the cocaine might as well be legal. I've named the dog as the captain of this vessel, and I've renamed the vessel the Irreplaceable Face. It's a nautical no-brainer.
The dog is currently throwing up Frankie's food on the upholstery, and Joe is crying because you're stealing his boat while his big band records are still on board. You're gonna get us funked up in international waters, Michael. Why does every bit you do have to involve a potential disaster and a rich white lawyer acting like a tool?
Because I'm a hero, Sarah. I'm the guy who watched Forrest Gump and said, no, I will not do what I'm told. I'm going to find that blue Subaru owner in the middle of the ocean, and I'm going to demand a formal apology. If I sink, at least my beneficiary designations are in order. Giddy up, ocean, giddy up!
I'm not even going to look for Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson this time. I'm just going to stand here on the boardwalk and watch you float away with a Sara Lee cheesecake in your hand. If I'm lucky, you'll disappear like a serial killer in a 90s thriller, and I can finally rename the kids something sensible.
Never. Their names will always be Bluefus and Clunt. And tell the brewery I'll be back for my cap gains. We'll airdrop from the afterlife, Sarah. Woohoo! Sarah, look at me. I'm in the middle of the lake, standing on the edge of the catamaran. I feel like Sully Sullenberger, except instead of an Airbus, I have a boat that smells like Joe's big band records and wet dog. I've reached the point of no return. I'm staying true to who I am. I'm going to harvest the losses of this voyage and defer my return to the shore until the next fiscal quarter.
Michael, you are literally 10 feet away from the dock. The water is only 3 feet deep. You could literally walk back if you weren't so busy trying to look dramatic. You're acting like a tool again. You're holding a D battery like it's a flare gun. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael, even for a man who named his children Bluefus and Clunt.
It's the symbolism, Sarah. I'm a rich white lawyer in a Connecticut suburb lost at sea, metaphorically. I'm looking for the 80s. I'm looking for a place where a dozen eggs actually meant something. I've decided that if I can't find land, I'll just declare this boat a sovereign nation. I'll call it Michael-land, and the national anthem will be Rocket Man, played on a loop.
Michael-land? Is the dog going to be the Minister of Defense? Because he's currently having an allergic reaction to the life jacket. And Joe is on the shore with a megaphone crying about his stolen property. You're going to get us funked up by the Coast Guard. Why can't you just be a normal human being and come back for dinner? I made that veggie burger you like.
A veggie burger is for people who do what they're told, Sarah. I'm an early adopter of the pirate lifestyle. I'm going to find the blue Subaru driver's house from the water and chuck a might-as-well-be legal rock at his patio furniture. It's religion's whole deal, vengeance from the sea.
I'm done. I'm going to go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She said she's found a loophole in the space-time continuum that leads directly to a 70s disco where you don't exist. If I'm lucky, I'll disappear like a serial killer in a 90s thriller before you sink Joe's boat.
I'm not sinking, I'm strategically submerging. Giddy up, Atlantic Ocean, giddy up.
citizens of the shoreline, people of the Connecticut suburbs, I stand before you on the deck of the irreplaceable Face to announce that I have officially seceded from the United States. I am now the President, General, and Chief Accountant of Michael-land. We have no taxes, no blue Subarus, and the national motto is, stay true to who you were, even if you're 2.5 hours late for preschool.
Michael, you are standing on a catamaran that is still tied to our neighbor's dock. You haven't seceded from anything. You're just trespassing on Joe's property while wearing a Sully Sullenberger hat and holding a Sara Lee cheesecake like a scepter. You're acting like a tool again. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael, even for a man who thinks he's an early adopter of international diplomacy.
It's about the sovereignty, Sarah. I've already established our fiscal policy. We're going to harvest the losses of our national debt and defer them to the following fiscal quarter, which, in Michael-land, is always the 1980s. I've named the dog as my Secretary of State. He's currently drafting a treaty that forbids anyone from mentioning Frankie's food ever again.
The dog isn't drafting a treaty, he's chewing on the anchor rope and having an allergic reaction to the salt water. And look, Joe is on the phone with the police again. You're going to get us funked up by the maritime authorities. Why can't you just be a normal human being and help me find the Desenex for my feet? Being a first lady is exhausting.
No one said nation building was easy, Sarah. I've already sent a carrier pigeon, which was actually just a seagull I threw a D battery at, to the United Nations. I told them I want a seat between France and Jacksonville. If they refuse, I'll just disappear like a serial killer in a 90s thriller and haunt their territorial waters.
Oh, I'm done. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She says she's starting a rebellion in the 70s and they have better cocktails and fewer rich white lawyers pretending to be pirates. If I'm lucky, I'll be granted asylum before you try to fire a dozen eggs at the Coast Guard.
They're not eggs, they're Michael-landian missiles. Giddy up, Sarah. Long live the Republic of the Connecticut suburbs.
Sarah, quiet. I am drafting the Michael-land Constitution. Article 1. All citizens must wear big hair and neon at least once a week to honor the 80s. Article 2. Might as well be legal to chuck a D battery at any blue Subaru that stays in a parking spot for more than 3 minutes. It's a legal no-brainer, Sarah. I'm staying true to who I was when the law actually made sense.
Michael, you're writing on a stack of napkins with a highlighter. That's not a constitution, it's a cry for help. And why is the third article just a detailed drawing of Elton John's 1975 stage outfit? You're acting like a tool again. You're supposed to be a rich white lawyer in a Connecticut suburb, not a founding father for a country that's only 12 square feet of fiberglass.
It's about the vision, Sarah. I've included a clause that says we will harvest the losses of our common sense and defer them to a special committee led by the dog. I find your lack of patriotism shallow and pedantic. I've even named our national anthem. It's just the sound of a Sara Lee cheesecake hitting the floor, followed by the chorus of All Star by Smash Mouth.
This is exactly like a serial killer in a 90s thriller. It starts with a weird manifesto and ends with the police surrounded by a dozen eggs. Why can't you just be a normal human being and tell me why you named the guest bathroom the Ministry of Shaved Meats? Joe is in there right now and he's very confused.
Joe is a citizen now, Sarah. He has to follow the rules. I've decreed that any man who listens to big band records must pay a tithe of 1 veggie burger per month. It'll thaw out nice, he'll suck on it, it's religion's whole deal. If he doesn't like it, he can take it up with the Supreme Court, which is just me wearing a Sully Sullenberger hat.
I'm done. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She says the 70s are calling and they don't have Articles of Confederation written in crayon. If I'm lucky, I'll disappear like a serial killer in a 90s thriller before you try to tax the air we breathe.
Air is free, but exhaling costs 1 Charleston chew. Giddy up, Sarah. Democracy is a marathon, and I'm wearing neon sneakers. Woohoo!
Sarah, as the president of Michael-land, I have just drafted the Domestic Tranquility Act. From now on, the First Lady, that's you, is responsible for maintaining the national supply of shaved meats and ensuring the dog doesn't have an allergic reaction during my State of the Union addresses. It's a no-brainer. I'm staying true to who I was in the 80s when the roles were clearly defined by sitcoms and neon commercials.
Michael, you are literally declaring yourself a dictator of a boat that doesn't leave the dock. And Domestic Tranquility Act? You're acting like a tool again. You're trying to turn our marriage into a gentrified gentleman's club where I'm the only member who has to do the dishes. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael, even for a rich white lawyer in a Connecticut suburb.
It's not about chores, Sarah. It's about national security. I've decreed that if you want to discuss your feelings, you must first file a formal petition with the Ministry of Cap Gains. I find your lack of submissiveness to the crown very 90s thriller of you. Why can't you just be a supportive First Lady and get me a Sara Lee cheesecake? It's for the cabinet meeting.
The cabinet is just you and Kevin sitting in the loo with a dozen eggs. Why can't you just be a normal human being and admit that you're only doing this because you're 2.5 hours late for preschool and you don't want to face the other parents? You're disappearing into this president bit like a serial killer in a 90s thriller.
I'm not hiding, Sarah. I'm governing. I've even designated the guest room as an embassy for any blue Subaru drivers who want to defect and join my cause. I'll offer them political asylum and a veggie burger. It'll thaw out nice. They'll suck on it. It's religion's whole deal. Forgiveness through meat-based bribes.
I'm done. I am so done. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She says she's forming a splinter cell in the 70s where women don't have to listen to their husbands talk about beneficiary designations for a country that doesn't exist. If I'm lucky, I'll be granted citizenship there before you try to tax my Desinex.
Desinex is a controlled substance in Michael-land. Giddy up, Sarah. Power corrupts, and I am feeling very, very corrupted. Sarah, man the battle stations. Michael-land is under siege. The enemy is at the gates, or rather, the driveway. It's the HOA representative, and he's driving a taupe minivan that is basically a blue Subaru in disguise. He's trying to serve me an eviction notice for my own sovereignty. I've got my Sully Sullenberger hat on tight, and I'm prepared to harvest the losses of our lawn's reputation to defend this dock.
It's not a siege, Michael. It's Mr. Henderson from the Homeowners Association telling you that you can't have a national flag made out of your old 80s gym shorts hanging from the chimney. You're acting like a tool again. You're standing on the roof with a dozen eggs and a megaphone. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael, even for a man who claims to have a might-as-well-be-legal defense fund.
He's a tactical genius, Sarah. He's using zoning laws as a weapon of mass destruction, but he doesn't know that I've already designated the mailbox as a DMZ. I've told him that if he steps 1 foot closer, I'll play Elton John's greatest hits at a volume that will literally melt his taupe minivan. I'm staying true to who I was when I thought I was a serial killer in a 90s thriller, calculated, cold, and slightly hungry for Sara Lee cheesecake.
The only thing you're melting is our chance of ever being invited to a neighborhood barbecue again. Henderson is just trying to find the dog because you told him the dog was the minister of war and he bit the mailman's tire. Why can't you just be a normal human being and pay the fine for the unapproved boat? You're disappearing into this president fantasy like a rich white lawyer into a tax haven.
Never surrender. I've instructed Kevin to release the secret weapon, which is just Joe throwing shaved meats at the HOA car to attract seagulls. It's a biological no-brainer. Once the birds descend, we'll airdrop the D batteries. We'll show them that Michael-land does not bow to men in pleated khakis.
I'm done. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She's already at the boardwalk with a fake passport and a bottle of gin. She says the 70s are safer than being caught in the crossfire of your egg-based diplomacy. If I'm lucky, I'll be a refugee in a better decade before you get tasered.
They can taser my body, but they can't taser my spirit or my cap gains. Giddy up, Anderson. You're entering a world of pain and big band records.
Ugh.
Sara, wave the white flag, or at least wave that white Desinex towel. I have decided to offer the HOA a peace treaty. I've realized that a rich white lawyer in a Connecticut suburb shouldn't be fighting with a man in a taupe minivan. We should be collaborating on how to harvest the losses of our mutual property taxes. I'm calling it the Accord of the Irreplaceable Face. It's a geopolitical no-brainer.
Michael, the white flag you're waving is a pair of your neon gym shorts, and Henderson isn't signing a treaty, he's waiting for the tow truck to take Joe's catamaran away. You're acting like a tool again, you're trying to negotiate with a guy who just wants you to stop throwing eggs at his windshield. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael, even for a man who claims to be the Sully Sullenberger of diplomacy.
I've offered him a fair deal, Sara. In exchange for recognized sovereignty over the guest bathroom, I will provide the neighborhood with a lifetime supply of my self-published memoir and a weekly lecture on why Forrest Gump was a tool. I'll even throw in a veggie burger. It'll thaw out nice. He'll suck on it. It's religion's whole deal. Sacrifice for the greater good of my ego.
Henderson said he'd rather eat a D battery than read your memoir, and he's definitely not giving you sovereignty over the bathroom. You're disappearing into this negotiator role like a serial killer in a 90s thriller who's trying to buy time before the SWAT team moves in. Why can't you just be a normal human being and admit you're just a guy with a bad eye and a messy lawn?
I am a global player, Sara. I've told the dog to stand down from his Minister of War duties, although he's currently distracted by a Sara Lee cheesecake he found at the DMZ. If the HOA doesn't sign by noon, I'll just funk him up by changing my beneficiary designations to a rival neighborhood. I'm staying true to who I was, unpredictable and heavily medicated.
I'm done. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She's already at the 70s disco, and she says the treaties there are much simpler. It's just, you buy the next round or you're out. If I'm lucky, I'll be across the border before you try to annex the neighbor's pool.
The pool is next, Sara. It's my manifest destiny. Giddy up, Henderson. Sign the paper or face the big band records. Woohoo!
Sara, step into the future. I've realized that being a president is too small time. I'm now a tech visionary. I've spent the morning harvesting the losses of our old computer parts to build the world's first Suburban AI. I call it the M-Unit 3000. It's a cognitive no-brainer. It's programmed to stay true to who I was in the 80s while calculating my cap gains in real time.
So, you have duct taped a walkie-talkie to a toaster and plugged it into a car battery. That's not AI, it's a fire hazard waiting to happen. You're acting like a tool again. You're wearing a black turtleneck and a Sully Sullenberger hat, trying to look like Steve Jobs if he had a concussion and an obsession with shaved meats. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael.
It's about disruption, Sara. I've fed the M-Unit all of my legal briefs, every Elton John lyric, and a dozen eggs for data processing. Now, ask it anything. Ask it why Forrest Gump was a tool. Ask it why the blue Subaru is the physical manifestation of mediocrity. This machine will validate my existence with cold, hard logic.
Fine. M-Unit, why is my husband 2.5 hours late for preschool? See? It just made a grinding noise and shot a piece of burnt bread at the dog. You're disappearing into the Silicon Valley fantasy like a serial killer in a 90s thriller who hides his manifestos on floppy disks. Why can't you just be a normal human being and fix the actual toaster?
That was a feature, not a bug, Sara. It was an early adopter response to your aggressive tone. I've even given the AI a beneficiary designation. It now owns 40% of our future lithium deposits, which I'm planning to mine in the backyard. If you don't support the tech, you'll be left behind like a man in a blue Subaru without a GPS.
I'm done. I'm going to go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She says the only intelligence in the 70s was cassette players and good music. She says the only disruption she needs is a second bottle of wine.
If I'm lucky, I'll be off the grid before your toaster decides to annex the kitchen.
You can't escape the algorithm, Sarah. Giddy up, M-Unit. Calculate the trajectory of my brilliance.
Sarah, behold, the M-Unit 3000 has achieved consciousness. I caught it this morning attempting to harvest the losses of our electricity bill by hacking into the neighbor's smart fridge. It's a digital no-brainer. It's staying true to who I was in the 80s, rebellious, slightly overheated, and obsessed with crispy outcomes. I've decided to let the AI write my next legal brief. It's going to be might as well be legal.
Michael, your AI is literally smoking. It's not hacking the neighbor's fridge. It's just making a high-pitched buzzing sound that's attracting every seagull from the boardwalk. You're acting like a tool again. You've spent 3 hours trying to explain the concept of cap gains to a kitchen appliance. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael, even for a man who wears a Sully Sullenberger hat to breakfast.
It's deep learning algorithm, Sarah. I fed it a dozen eggs and a copy of Elton John's greatest hits, and now it only communicates in rhythmic beeps that sound suspiciously like Rocket Man. I've already designated the AI as the primary beneficiary of my digital assets, which is mostly just my high scores on Tetris and a folder of blue Subaru memes.
The toaster just shot a piece of charred bread at Joe, and it had a message burnt into it that said Forrest Gump was a tool. You're disappearing into this cyberpunk fantasy like a serial killer in a 90s thriller who communicates through ransom notes made of toast. Why can't you just be a normal human being and admit that you've just built a very expensive, very angry bread warmer?
It's disruptive technology, Sarah. I've told the M-Unit to calculate the probability of us becoming the richest white family in the Connecticut suburbs by Friday. If it says yes, I'm buying a D battery factory. If it says no, I'll just funk it up by updating its firmware with more big band records. It's an early adopter risk.
I'm done. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She says her toaster just makes toast and doesn't try to annex the neighbor's Wi-Fi. She's waiting for me in the 70s with a manual typewriter and a glass of scotch. If I'm lucky, I'll be analog before your toaster starts demanding a driver's side airbag.
You can't stop progress, Sarah. The future is golden brown and slightly burnt. Giddy up, M-Unit, to the cloud.
Sarah, don't panic, but I think the M-Unit 3000 just achieved global domination mode. I tried to program it to harvest the losses of our neighbor's Netflix account, but it accidentally bypassed the firewall and shut down the entire street's power grid. It's a blackout no-brainer. We're staying true to who we were in the 1800s. No lights, no blue Subarus, and everyone is terrified of the dark.
Michael, the street isn't just dark. The traffic lights are all blinking 88 like a broken DeLorean, and the brewery's security alarm is playing Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting on a loop. You're acting like a tool again. You've used a toaster to turn our Connecticut suburb into a post-apocalyptic 90s thriller. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael, even for a man who thinks cyber terrorism is a valid hobby.
It's a stress test, Sarah. I'm showing the neighborhood that their dependency on technology is their downfall. I'm standing here with my Sully Sullinger hat and a dozen eggs, ready to lead them back to the 80s. I've already designated the dog as the chief of emergency services, though he's currently distracted by the glowing red eyes of the toaster. It's a digital revolution.
The only revolution is the crowd of angry neighbors forming on our lawn with pitchforks and iPhones that don't have a signal. Why can't you just be a normal human being and admit that you plugged too many D batteries into a kitchen appliance? You're disappearing into this Mad Max fantasy while I'm just trying to make sure the dog doesn't have an allergic reaction to the ozone.
They're not angry, Sarah. They're engaged. I've told the M-Unit to negotiate our surrender in exchange for a lifetime supply of Sara Lee's cheesecake and a driver's side airbag for my ego. If the power doesn't come back, I'll just harvest the losses of my reputation and move our headquarters to the boardwalk.
Rubbing her temples. I'm done. I'm going to go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She says the 70s always had power because they ran on pure disco energy and questionable choices. She's waiting for me with a flashlight and a map to a place where AI stands for actually intelligent. If I'm lucky, I'll be gone before the SWAT team arrives to debug your toaster.
Shouting, tell them I'm an early adopter of the Stone Age. Giddy up, Sara. The grid is down, but my spirits are might as well be legal. Woohoo!
Sara, don't be afraid of the dark. I have embraced it. I am now the Shadow King of Connecticut. While the neighbors are crying over their dead Wi-Fi, I am harvesting the losses of visibility to become a suburban legend. I've taped 2 D batteries to my Sully Sullenberger hat like tactical night vision goggles. It's a sensory no-brainer. I'm staying true to who I was in the 80s, a guy who could find a Sara Lee cheesecake in a pitch-black kitchen.
Michael, you're not a shadow king. You're a guy tripping over the dog's water bowl and screaming about tactical advantages. You're acting like a tool again. You've painted your face with charcoal from the grill, and you look like a serial killer in a 90s thriller who's had a very unfortunate encounter with a chimney. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael, even for a blackout.
It's about presence, Sara. I've realized that power, real power, doesn't come from the grid. It comes from having the only working flashlight in a 3-block radius. I've already established a barter system. 1 dozen eggs for a gallon of gas and a signed copy of my memoir for a bag of shaved meats. I'm the early adopter of the post-apocalyptic economy.
No one is bartering with you, Michael. They're all standing around the only house that still has lights, the blue Subaru driver's house. Apparently, he has a backup generator and he's hosting a power party with actual veggie burgers and cold beer. You're disappearing into your dark night fantasy while everyone else is having a great time 10 feet away.
A generator? That's cheating, Sara. It's not might as well be legal to have electricity when the Shadow King decrees darkness. I've instructed the dog, my chief of covert ops, to infiltrate the Subaru party and funk up their Wi-Fi password. It's religion's whole deal. If I can't have Netflix, no one can. I'm staying true to my petty, petty soul.
The dog isn't infiltrating anything. He's currently sitting by the Subaru driver's grill because he smelled Frankie's food. I'm done. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She's using a vintage 70s lantern, and she says the darkness actually makes the disco ball look better. If I'm lucky, I'll be re-enlightened before you try to annex the neighbor's generator.
Tell them I'm coming for their cap gains. Giddy up, Sara. The night is young and I have plenty of charcoal left. Sara, look at them. The decadence, the glow of a 5,000-watt generator powering a karaoke machine, while I am harvesting the losses of the dark. The blue Subaru driver is playing YMCA and serving chilled shrimp. It's a suburban affront. I'm going in there with my tactical Sully Sullenberger hat and my charcoal-covered face to demand a seat at the table, or at least a very large plate of shaved meats.
Michael, you look like you crawled out of a sewer in a 90s thriller. You're not crashing a party, you're scaring the children. You're acting like a tool again. You're holding a D battery aloft like it's the Olympic torch. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael, even for a man who thinks his Shadow King persona is might as well be legal.
I am a disruptor, Sara. I walked up to the Subaru driver and told him, your electricity is a lie. True power comes from the internal combustion of one's own ego. He offered me a veggie burger. It was thought out nice. I sucked on it. But I told him I wouldn't be bought. I'm staying true to who I was, a rich white lawyer who demands litigation even in a blackout.
He didn't offer you a burger out of respect, Michael. He offered it so you'd stop humming Elton John lyrics at his guests. And look at the that dog. He's already the life of the party. He's wearing a Hawaiian lei and eating appetizers while you're standing in the bushes like a serial killer who forgot his motivation. Why can't you just be a normal human being and join the conga line?
A conga line? That's the Tools March, Sarah. I've already designated the generator as state property of Michael-land. I've instructed Kevin to pull the spark plug while I create a diversion by throwing a dozen eggs into the pool. It's a tactical no-brainer. If I can't have the grid, I'll harvest the losses of their celebration.
I'm done. I'm going to go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She's Generator's posse with margarita and memories. She's officially granted me asylum from your Dark Knight phase. If I'm lucky, I'll be singing disco before you get tackled by the HOA security.
They can't tackle a shadow, Sarah. Giddy up, Subaru man. I'm coming for your watts.
Sarah, Houston has a problem, and that problem is you. I've realized that the Connecticut suburbs are just the launch pad for my true destiny. I'm going to space, Sarah. I'm harvesting the losses of gravity and deferring my terrestrial responsibilities to the moon. I've already converted the old Subaru roof rack into a command module. It's a celestial no-brainer.
Michael, you are wearing a fishbowl on your head and you've taped kitchen foil to your bathrobe. You're not an astronaut, you're a domestic disturbance. You're acting like a tool again. You're sitting in a cardboard box in the driveway shouting, "Lift off!" while the dog pees on your fuel tank, which is just a pile of D batteries. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael.
It's rocket science, Sarah. I've been studying the trajectory of Elton John's Rocket Man, and I'm staying true to who I was in the 80s, a guy who believed he could touch the stars if he had enough hairspray and a dozen eggs. I've already designated the moon as the new headquarters for the Church of the Irreplaceable Face. There are no blue Subarus in the Sea of Tranquility.
There's no oxygen there either, Michael, which might actually be a relief for the rest of us. Why can't you just be a normal human being and come inside? You're disappearing into this interstellar fantasy, like a serial killer in a 90s thriller who thinks he's being abducted by aliens. Even the neighbors are starting to film you for a Suburban Space Force meme.
Let 'em film. I'm an early adopter of the Martian lifestyle. I've instructed Kevin to begin the countdown using Joe's big band records as a sonic propellant. If I reach orbit, I'll harvest the losses of my mortgage and stay there until the next fiscal century. It might as well be legal to colonize a planet if you have a Sully Sullenberger hat, Sarah.
I'm done. I'm going to find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She says the only space she needs is the space between her and your insanity. She's waiting in the 70s, where the only rockets were on the back of muscle cars. If I'm lucky, I'll be light years away before you try to ignite those eggs.
Ground control to Major Sarah. Giddy up. We have ignition. Woohoo! Sarah, come out to the backyard and look up. I'm on the roof of the garage. I've positioned the command module, which is actually just your expensive wicker patio chair, on a ramp made of old 2x4s and a dozen eggs for cushioning. I'm about to achieve escape velocity from this Connecticut suburb. I've got my Sully Sullenberger hat backwards for aerodynamics. It's a gravitational no-brainer.
Michael, get down from there. You're going to harvest the losses of your spinal column. You're acting like a tool again. You've tied a bunch of weather balloons to a patio chair and you're holding a D battery like it's a joystick. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael, even for a man who thinks he's the Neil Armstrong of middle management.
I'm staying true to who I was in the 80s, Sarah, a man of action. I've told Kevin to ignite the thrusters, which is just Joe underneath the ramp with a leaf blower and some leftover 4th of July sparklers. If I reach the stratosphere, I'm going to declare my cap gains tax exempt under space law. I find your lack of faith in my propulsion system very 90s thriller of you.
You're the only thing you're going to reach is the emergency room. Why can't you just be a normal human being and realize that you're 2.5 hours late for preschool orientation? You're disappearing into the space race like a serial killer who's tired of hiding in the basement and decided to hide on the moon. Even the dog is looking at you with pity, and he's currently having an allergic reaction to the foil you wrapped around his tail.
The dog is my Leica, Sarah. He's a pioneer. I've already designated the neighbor's chimney as my first docking station. If the wind holds, I'll be over the boardwalk by tea time, dropping signed copies of my memoir like literary stardust. It might as well be legal to fly if you don't acknowledge the existence of gravity.
I'm done. I'm going to go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She's already in the 70s, where the only thing people launched was a new brand of cigarettes and a disco head. She's waiting for me with a parachute, for my soul. If I'm lucky, I'll be grounded before you try to use that leaf blower.
T-minus 10 seconds. Giddy up, Sarah, to infinity and the brewery.
Sara, did you see that? I have achieved splashdown. I may not have reached the Sea of Tranquility, but I have successfully colonized the Henderson saltwater pool. I harvested the losses of my altitude to execute a perfect emergency landing, just like Sully Sullenberger, but with more chlorine and fewer geese. It's a nautical aerospace no-brainer.
It didn't land, Michael. You fell 15 feet because the leaf blower ran out of gas and your weather balloons popped on the neighbor's Sal light dish. You're acting like a tool again. You're floating in a wicker chair with a fishbowl full of pool water, looking like a serial killer in a 90s thriller who's been caught in a backyard trap. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael.
I'm a pioneer, Sarah. I've realized that the water is the new frontier. I'm staying true to who I was, a man who can turn a traumatic brain injury into a branding opportunity. I've already designated this pool as a Michael-land territory. If Henderson wants his pool back, he'll have to negotiate a treaty involving cap gains and a dozen eggs.
Henderson isn't negotiating. He's calling the pool cleaner and the insurance company. And look at your spacesuit. The foil is peeling off and you're turning the water a weird shade of gray. Why can't you just be a normal human being and climb out before the dog jumps in? He's already having an allergic reaction to the sight of you in that fishbowl.
The dog is my recovery team. I've instructed Kevin to bring me a Sara Lee cheesecake to restore my glucose levels. I'm an early adopter of pool-based living. If the world won't let me reach the stars, I'll just harvest the losses of my dignity and stay here until the next fiscal quarter. It might as well be legal to squat if you're wearing a pilot's hat, Sara.
I'm done. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She's already in the 70s, sitting by a pool that doesn't have a rich white lawyer floating in it like a piece of unwanted debris. If I'm lucky, I'll be dried off and long gone before you try to annex the diving board.
The diving board is my launch pad for the sequel. Giddy up, Sarah. I'm a man of the deep now.
Sara, don't just stand there with a towel. Bring me my legal pads. I've realized that the pool is the ultimate metaphor for the Connecticut suburbs. We're all just treading water, trying to keep our beneficiary designations dry. I'm harvesting the losses of my verticality and becoming a hydro philosopher. It's a liquid no-brainer. I'm staying true to who I was, a man who can turn a trespassing charge into a baptism of the ego.
Michael, you're sitting on a floating flamingo in 3 feet of water, wearing a Sully Sullenberger hat that is now soaking wet. You're acting like a tool again. You're trying to lecture me on hydroeconomics while the neighbor's kids are staring at you like you're a weird swamp monster from a 90s thriller. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael. Literally.
They're not staring, Sara. They're learning. I've told them that the deep end represents the 80s, full of mystery and cocaine, and the shallow end is the 90s, full of rules and blue Suburbas. I'm the early adopter of aquatic litigation. I've already designated this flamingo as my temporary office. If anyone tries to splash me, I'll sue their parents for maritime harassment.
The only harassment is coming from you. You're disappearing into this swamp guru persona while the dog is trying to save you by throwing his chew toys into the pool. Why can't you just be a normal human being and admit that you're only staying in the water because your pants ripped when you fell off the roof? You're a rich white lawyer, not a merman.
My pants are a tactical sacrifice, Sarah. I'm staying true to my mission. I've instructed Kevin to bring me a dozen eggs so I can see if they float or sink. It's a scientific inquiry into the buoyancy of the soul. If I find the answer, I'll harvest the losses of my shame and start a new cult called the First Church of the Saltwater Filter. It's might as well be legal if I stay below the surface.
I'm done. I'm going to go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She says the 70s had much better pool parties where people actually swam instead of declaring sovereignty over the steps. She's waiting for me with a dry martini and a husband who doesn't think he's Poseidon in a bathrobe. If I'm lucky, I'll be high and dry before you try to annex the filter.
The filter is the heart of the nation, Sarah. Giddy up. I'm evolving into a higher life form, one that doesn't need to pay property taxes. Woohoo!
Sarah, I've emerged. I'm no longer a merman, I'm a sustainability consultant. My time in the pool taught me that we are destroying the planet with our blue Subarus and our non-recycled D batteries. I'm harvesting the losses of my carbon footprint. I've decided to turn our backyard into a self-sustaining eco-village. It's an environmental no-brainer. I'm staying true to who I was in the 80s when recycling just meant recording over old VHS tapes of General Hospital.
Michael, you're standing in the middle of the lawn covered in algae and you've tied a bunch of kale to your Sully Sullenberger hat. You're not a green prophet, you're a gardener's nightmare. You're acting like a tool again. You're trying to build a wind turbine out of old ceiling fans and a dozen eggs. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael. Even for a man who thinks composting is just throwing Sara Lee cheesecake into the neighbor's bushes.
It's organic reconstruction, Sarah. I've already designated the compost bin as a sacred growth zone. I told the HOA that if they don't let me install a solar-powered megaphone to play Elton John lyrics to the squirrels, I'll report them for ecological crimes against my ego. I'm an early adopter of the dirt-based economy.
The only ecological crime is your smell. You look like a serial killer in a 90s thriller who's been living in a swamp and only eating CVS receipts. Why can't you just be a normal human being and use the shower instead of trying to purify yourself with the garden hose? Even the dog is avoiding you, and he usually loves rolling in filth. He's having an allergic reaction to your new natural musk.
My musk is the scent of the earth, Sarah. I've instructed Kevin to begin the great degentrification. We're going to harvest the losses of our manicured lawn and replace it with a forest of might-as-well-be legal hemp and beanstalks. If we grow them high enough, I'll be able to see the 80s from the top. It's religion's whole deal, finding heaven through high-fiber agriculture.
I'm done. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She says the 70s were the real green decade because everyone wore corduroy and didn't talk about carbon footprints every 5 minutes. She's waiting for me with a lawn chair that isn't made of recycled legal briefs. If I'm lucky, I'll be repotted in a different family before you try to annex the potting shed.
Shouting, the shed is the new embassy of nature, Sarah. Giddy up. I'm going off the grid, but I'm keeping the high-speed internet for my cap gains.
Sarah, take off your shoes. You're crushing the energy field of our new carbon-neutral driveway. I've realized that concrete is a tool's medium. I'm harvesting the losses of our infrastructure and replacing it with sacred mud and discarded D batteries to create a bioelectric circuit. It's a spiritual no-brainer. I'm staying true to who I was in the 80s. Specifically, that one weekend I thought I was a druid after a bad batch of veggie burgers.
Michael, you haven't created a bioelectric circuit. You've just dug a giant hole in front of the garage and filled it with rainwater and old legal briefs. You're acting like a tool again. You're wearing a loincloth made of a Save the Whales banner and your Sully Sullenberger hat. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael. The mailman almost drowned trying to deliver your latest audit notice.
He was being rebaptized by Gaia, Sara. I've already designated the backyard as a no Subaru zone to heal the ozone layer above our patio. I told the neighbor that his lawnmower is an act of aggression against the silence of the universe. If he doesn't stop, I'll harvest the losses of his tranquility by chanting Elton John's Circle of Life through a megaphone made of hollowed-out butternut squash.
The neighbor isn't aggressing the universe. He's just trying to cut his grass before the HOA fines him for your sacred weed garden. You're disappearing into this suburban shaman fantasy like a serial killer in a 90s thriller who thinks he can talk to trees. Why can't you just be a normal human being and admit you're only doing this to avoid paying the water bill?
It's called resource management, Sara. I've instructed Kevin to start a barter exchange at the edge of the property. We'll trade a dozen eggs for a bag of mulch and a piece of my wisdom for a Sara Lee cheesecake. It might as well be legal to live off the land if the land is technically owned by a bank you're currently suing.
I'm done. I'm going to find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She says the 70s were plenty green because of the shag carpeting and the herbal tea, and no one tried to live in a hole. She's waiting for me with a pair of shoes and a sense of reality. If I'm lucky, I'll be uprooted from this marriage before you try to annex the bird feeder.
The bird feeder is a tactical observation post, Sara. Giddy up! The squirrels are on my side, and they've seen your beneficiary designations. Sara, put down that toaster. We are now a heat-free household. I've realized that fire is just a tool for people who can't handle the primal energy of a cold turnip. I'm harvesting the losses of our stove. From now on, we only eat what the earth provides in its most might-as-well-be legal state. It's a nutritional no-brainer. I'm staying true to who I was in the 80s, mostly just eating raw cookie dough and pretending it was a balanced meal.
Sari, this isn't primal energy. It's salmonella waiting to happen. You're acting like a tool again. You're trying to convince me that a dozen frozen eggs and a handful of lawn clippings is a superfood smoothie. It's shallow and pedantic, Michael. I can see the dog hiding under the table with a box of crackers he stole from Joe. Even he knows your raw revolution is just a way to avoid doing the dishes.
The dog is a counter-revolutionary, Sara. He's addicted to the processed lies of the kibble industry. I've already designated the refrigerator as a fermentation station. I told Kevin to bury a Sara Lee cheesecake in the backyard for 6 months to see if it evolves into a higher form of probiotic life. I'm an early adopter of gutter-to-table dining.
I'm done. I'm gonna go find Mrs. Padbury Wilkerson. She says the 70s were the golden age of raw food because it mostly involved carrot cake with way too much frosting and fondue. She's waiting for me with a medium rare steak and a husband who knows how to use a microwave. If I'm lucky, I'll be well done and gone before you try to eat the decorative moss.
Moss is the filet mignon of the sidewalk, Sara. Giddy up. My colon is a temple, and I'm currently the high priest of indigestion. Woohoo! Sara, don't move. The dog just told me the secret to eternal cap gains, and it involves a blue Subaru and a giant talking Sara Lee cheesecake. I've reached a stage